Yo legends! Welcome to Fanfiction Legend. Grab your headphones because today's story is about to hit different. Disclaimer: I do not claim ownership of this story. All rights belong to the original creators. Note: I'm constantly tweaking the settings to make it as immersive as possible. Marvel, the Kryptonian who ate the multiverse. Chapter 41: Superman requests to fight. What idea? Natasha was stunned. Leon began to pack up the items on the workbench, preparing to make a batch of inhibitors. I'll help you solve the Red House problem, and you can bring your companions to change jobs and serve me. How about that? No one can refuse a group of female agents with extraordinary skills who can fly planes and cook in the kitchen, serving them all over the world. I can get the services of a group of top agents. You can destroy the Red House, and the other widows can break free from control and find new owners. It's a win-win situation for all three parties. As for the win-win situation mentioned at the beginning, Leon not only achieved the goal of destroying the Red House, but also gained a group of subordinates. He won twice. What do you think of my proposal? While talking casually, Leon's hands kept moving. His hands left after images on the workbench, but each operation was extremely precise, and the ratio of every milliliter of reagent was perfect. Natasha was watching in amazement. How are you going to solve the problem of the Red House? Do not know why. She had no doubt about what Leon said. I sincerely feel that as long as the other party is willing, it would definitely destroy the Red House that frightened her. So you agree? Leon asked without turning his head. Natasha was silent for a few seconds. I agree. After destroying the Red House, I will cooperate with you to persuade other widows to join. But I can't guarantee that they will agree. As for me, I am yours now. Natasha's decisiveness made Leon stop what he was doing. Are you serious? He turned back in surprise. You didn't even ask me what I want you to do? What is this inexplicable trust? Generally speaking, shouldn't we make some rules with him after careful consideration so that he cannot order the widows to do anything immoral? Leon had to admit that Natasha had a good sense of proportion. Natasha shook her head. Believe me, as long as you can destroy the Red House, they will be willing to do anything for you. What about you? Leon asked. I said from the beginning that I owe you a life. Natasha put her hands on the table, moved closer to Leon, and looked into his eyes. I will do whatever you ask me to do. If I can't do it, I will have to give my life back to you. Her breath sprayed on Leon's face. Natasha's eyes are as charming as silk, and she really grasps the man's desire to conquer. What she meant was that she would not do anything against her will. But when she said it, it was euphemistically transformed into, if she couldn't do it, she would pay with her life. Even Leon would be moved if he heard such words of complete entrustment of life. However, this is obviously an exception this time. Oh, the smell on you. Don't get so close. I wanted to tell you before that you can use the bathroom in my room upstairs as you like. Now go and wash yourself first. Leon pinched his nose and quickly moved away from Natasha with a look of disgust on his face, although some of the super sense of smell was suppressed. But when he got closer, the faint sewer smell on Natasha still made him feel quite uncomfortable. My smell. Natasha had a dazed look on her face, as if struck by lightning. Leon didn't explain and directly ordered Dayday to send the guest away. Dayday, push her out and don't let her come in before she is cleaned. Anyway, it's useless for her to stay here while I make the inhibitor. Dayday obediently rolled the pulley under his feet, used the mechanical arm to support Natasha's back, and pushed her out. Natasha was still in a trance until she walked into the bathroom in Leon's room. It was the first time that she was criticized for being too smelly when she was using her charm. Do I really stink? She raised her hand and sniffed her armpit. No, the chemical deodorant has obviously covered up the smell of the sewer. Natasha took off her combat uniform doubtfully and clicked the electronic screen on the wall to release hot water. Well, I haven't taken such a hot bath in a long time. It's so comfortable. Could it be that Leon actually cares about me? Her red lips curled up into a smile. So he is still a proud little brother after all. He is only about 17 or 18 years old. It looks like you're ready? That's great. I have enough inhibitors ready. An hour and a half later, Natasha and Leon met in the living room. At this time, the huge sun had already set below the sea level. The living room of Stark's mansion was filled with orange, and the shadows of all the furniture were stretched very long. Natasha was still wearing the same black combat uniform. However, after she took a shower and washed and dried her combat suit using a smart washing machine, Leon was finally able to face her image. Natasha is not tall, but her figure is at its peak. She is well proportioned, with a curvy figure and full of feminine charm. However, what is most attractive is her temperament and her amber eyes. Every look in those eyes seemed to contain thousands of words, telling of myriad emotions. Leon thought as he looked into her eyes. No wonder Natasha never wears a mask when she goes on missions. Her eyes are so recognizable, even if you cover your whole body tightly. But anyone who saw her would know it was her when they saw those eyes. We're ready. So what's our plan? Why do you sound like we're going to attack the Red House right away? Natasha looked at Leon and said, and why are you wearing a windbreaker? Is your iron armor hidden inside? Wait, am I right? As Tony Stark's younger brother, it is not surprising that Leon has an Iron Man armor named Natasha. You are wearing armor. Are you ready to take me to overthrow the Red House right now? Natasha asked a series of questions. She was a little excited and a little hesitant at this moment. In the Red House's evaluation system, the most valuable thing about iron armor is actually the technology above. As for the armor itself, it has at most the combat power of a flying formation. What the Red House lacks the least is flying formations. Should we make a plan first? Natasha wanted to persuade Leon to calm down. Liang shook his head and put the box containing the inhibitor on the ground. Plan? The plan is to find the Red House and kill all the members of the organization. He pulled the collar of his windbreaker with both hands, but you just guessed part of it right. I do intend to take you directly to the Red House. But I'm not going there in an iron suit. After saying that, Leon pulled with both hands, ripped open the collar, and threw the windbreaker onto the sofa. Not wearing an iron armor. It's not that I don't trust you, Leon, but maybe you don't know much about the Red House. I think we can WTF. Natasha hesitated and wanted to persuade him again. The next moment, she saw Leon rip open his collar, revealing the S-shaped logo on his chest, and she immediately broke down and cursed. You are Superman. Natasha was surprised and happy, as if a big cake had suddenly fallen from the sky and covered her face with cream. Are you really Superman? She was not quite sure when asking the question again, but her eyes were already full of rich spirit, as beautiful as crystal, of course. Leon opened his hands, and Natasha immediately stepped forward and pressed his chest muscles, then touched every hard muscle. Oh my God, it feels just like an ancient Greek sculpture. She couldn't help but exclaim, no wonder you are so strong, no wonder your chest muscles are so beautiful. So you are Superman. Natasha no longer felt any pressure. She suddenly felt very happy, like a little girl entering Disneyland for the first time. Leon was the big, squishy Mickey Mouse figure in her hands. This is Superman. As the Red House's top agent, how could Natasha not know about this internet celebrity who has become famous all over the world in recent days? Even superpowers have to be concerned about his power, so it is easy for him to deal with the tiny Red House. At this moment, Natasha felt that it was a great decision for her to invade Stark's mansion today. Stop touching me now. Are you ready? If you are, we'll set off. Leon interrupted Natasha's aggressive actions with a light cough. Natasha reluctantly withdrew her hand and nodded seriously. Let's go. At this time, the orange evening sunlight shines in from the floor-to-ceiling windows. The sun shines on Leon. extending his shadow to the farthest wall of the room. Natasha stood in the shadow, and in her eyes, Leon seemed to be covered with a layer of golden light. Chapter 42 Red House. The wind from high in the sky blew Natasha's red hair, but it didn't make her feel cold. She held Leon's hand tightly and looked at the fish-like lights below. "It's amazing, you just took me flying like this." She reached out to touch the clouds surrounding them, and the mist passed through her fingers. At the Stark mansion, after Leon made sure Natasha was ready, he grabbed her hand and soared into the sky, flying into the clouds. The kind of acceleration that breaks the speed of sound and blasts the sound barrier within 1 second. Even with Natasha's calmness, she couldn't help but scream in fear. In the past 24 years, she has undergone the most arduous training, flown the fastest planes, disguised herself as the most luxurious aristocrats, and can be said to have seen most of the scenery in the world. But this was her first time to experience supersonic flight without any protection. "This place is at least 1,000 meters above the ground. Why can I still breathe and speak normally, and not be hurt by the high-speed wind?" She looked around. Everything was new. "Because I released the biological force field." Leon did not explain in detail. He looked up at the sky and said, "The altitude here is too low. If we increase our speed, it will easily affect the environment. We have to fly higher." "How high will it fly?" Natasha was surprised. "You'll know soon." Leon took Natasha and accelerated again, rushing into the sky. "Oh." Natasha has adapted quickly. Even when she passed through the clouds and encountered the strong wind, she still let out a loud shout, just like riding a roller coaster in an amusement park. The two men rose all the way to the stratosphere. The moon has already risen at this time. Below the two of them were layers of smooth clouds. The moonlight reflected and danced on the surface of the clouds, adding a bluish-white tint to the dark bottom of the stratosphere. Natasha looked down at the clouds under the moon. The boundless blue-white sea of clouds extends all the way to the sky, with no end and no reference points to find the direction. She suddenly remembered. In the past, when she was flying a fighter jet in the stratosphere, she could use satellite positioning to determine direction and position. But flying with a physical body, there is no navigation. "Leon, do you know where to fly?" Natasha turned her head and asked Leon loudly. Leon was stunned for a moment, and looked at her strangely. "Of course I know. Why, do you want to show me the way and tell me where the Red House is?" Natasha looked at Leon, was silent for a few seconds, and found another question. "If I say I don't know the location of the Red House, can you find it? You were trained there, controlled, and then handed over the mission, but you didn't know where it was?" Leon's eyes became even stranger. Natasha looked innocent. "The Red House is a spy agency left over from the 90s and should not be known to the world. It can only rely on the girls who have been controlled and trained since childhood to maintain its operation, to ensure privacy and security. Every time we return from a mission, we are injected with sedatives. So I literally don't know where it is. But maybe someone knows." Natasha fell into reminiscence. "I once had an adoptive father, a second-generation Red Guardian, similar to the Soviet Union's own Captain America. He must know something. Let's go find him." "No need," Leon interrupted Natasha. "As for things like reuniting with your adoptive parents, it's better for you to go there on your own after you're free. Otherwise, how can I, an outsider stuck in the middle, cry and tell them my true feelings?" It was not difficult for him to find the Red House, so there was no need to ask anyone for directions. Besides, Natasha's adoptive father Alexei is the funny guy in the movie. In addition to providing a family home for Natasha and her sister Yelena, this adoptive father had no other function and knew nothing about the situation in the Red House. "So how do you plan to find the Red House?" "Use your artificial intelligence butler, the one called Jarvis," Natasha asked. "No, I'll use my eyes and ears to find it." Leon's sight traveled across half the globe and had already locked onto the Red House. Natasha was briefly confused before she opened her eyes wide. Super hearing and supervision? You have both of these abilities. When you saw me wearing Superman's uniform, didn't you guess that my abilities would be the same as Superman's? Leon asked back. A lot of people would guess so, but it's too incredible and no one wants to believe it. Natasha looked at Leon carefully again. So you really are like Superman? Could it be that you are a Kryptonian? Or are you a fan of Superman and experimented to give yourself such powers? She even analyzed the previous generation of Stark participated in the research of super soldier serum, so it seems reasonable for the current generation of Stark to research superhuman serum. Your reasonable range is the difference between the sky and the ground, Leon complained. Then how did you become a Superman? Natasha's eyes were filled with curiosity. There's nothing abnormal in your blood test records. You'll have a chance to know later. Leon smiled mysteriously. Suddenly his ears moved and his eyes fixed. Hold on tight. I can hear your boss in the red room getting mad because he can't contact you. We have to speed up. Are you going to send me back before he gets over his rage? Natasha smiled secretly. He will definitely thank you. That's great. I'm already looking forward to his expression. Leon suddenly accelerated, and the huge air pressure tore through the sky, pushing away the sea of clouds. Natasha felt it all with amazement. Under the cover of the biological force field, the wind pressure that was strong enough to cut through steel blew into her face, but became as gentle as the spring breeze. She felt like she was wearing VR equipment and experiencing the flight of an intercontinental missile. Vision and touch are completely separated. Oh my god, this is amazing, she exclaimed again. The speed of the two men quickly exceeded Mach 50, crossing an altitude of more than 10 kilometers every second. There are only clouds and thin air in the stratosphere, with no reference points. But Natasha soon discovered that the North Star in the starry sky was getting closer to her head. Are we going to the North Pole? The Red House is in the Arctic Circle, she suddenly said. The closer you get to the North Pole, the closer the North Star will be to directly overhead. To be precise, it's above the Arctic Ocean. We're almost there. Leon and Natasha began to slow down and dive. About to arrive. Natasha heard this and became nervous as she looked at the rapidly approaching clouds. She has never seen the full picture of the Red House for all these years, and this building will always be mysterious in her heart. It was like a high wall that isolated her from the world, representing death and indifference. And now she is finally going to see it. With the divine weapon sent from heaven, Leon is her greatest reliance. She knew that facing the power of Superman, the Red House was powerless to resist, and today was destined to be the day that would put an end to her past life. But the more she understood this, the more nervous she became. What she thought of was not the pleasure of destroying the Red House and taking revenge. In her heart, it was just a mission, something she had to do, and she was willing to die for it. And now that this mission is about to be completed, it seems that her life will no longer have any other meaning except for a debt of blood. At this moment, Natasha was like a puppy about to be sent out of a pet shop. She no longer had to be locked in a cage all day, and she looked at the travelers coming and going with hope in her eyes. She will be free, but will also face a world she has never seen. From now on, she can feel and touch the afternoon sunshine and the green grass of summer. But her eyes, which had not seen the light for a long time, could not see the daytime, and her muddy hands dared not touch the green grass. Chapter 43. Like entering a deserted place. There it is. We're here. Leon's voice pulled Natasha out of her thoughts. Her gaze shifted, and countless clouds and mists were passing by the two of them. At night, dark clouds piled up layer upon layer, covering everything around. Natasha looked around and all she saw were black clouds rushing towards her. Leon's speed was too fast, but his movements were too small, so small that it seemed as if he had blended into the clouds. But soon, the clouds suddenly thinned. Natasha had a premonition and looked intently. First, I saw a steel runway several hundred meters long tearing through the sea of clouds. Then, a huge monster connected to the runway emerged. The dark clouds were suddenly lit up. It was a towering fortress in the sky, an aircraft carrier shaped like a tall tower, with 3 floors, 4 fighter jet landing runways on each floor, a total of 12 runways. The lights of the fortress shone through most of the surrounding clouds. It hides here, like a pearl forgotten by the world. So this is the Red House, it's here. Natasha stared blankly, the bright light of the fortress reflected in her eyes. Leon couldn't help but stop and look at it. It's really spectacular, but its anti-gravity system looks like just a few large fans. Where did this combination of primitive and futuristic come from? The designer is really smart. Besides, an aerial unit that obviously has no energy defense system is just a sitting duck, isn't it? He complained again. He even mentioned his brother, but Tony will probably like this thing. It looks like steel, and has a flashy beauty. Tony likes this style the most. Natasha's brewing emotions were suddenly interrupted by this string of complaints. She looked at Leon speechlessly. You really know your brother? Of course, so I have to change my strategy. Leon climbed higher and took in the entire fortress. This fortress cannot be destroyed. It can be used as a birthday present for Tony's 40th birthday after some renovation. Wow, your birthday presents are all such expensive things. Natasha felt as if there was something stuck in her chest that she couldn't get out. Leon used his X-ray vision to note the positions of everyone in the fortress and said, "It's not always like this, but he gave me a spaceship for my 18th birthday, so the return gift couldn't be too bad." Natasha couldn't help but lean her upper body back, and at this moment it seemed as if countless US dollars piled up like a mountain and hit her face. "Well, you guys are really quite modern," she commented dryly. "Other rich second generations are still giving away luxury cars and yachts. This pair of brothers are great. They have sent up the Sky Fortress and the spaceship. They are going to fly out of the Earth and into space." "Okay, that's it." Leon took a few seconds to note everyone's position. He fell silently with Natasha landing on the top runway as lightly as raindrops. "Take these and follow me." Leon handed the box containing inhibitors to Natasha. "I will knock everyone out. If you follow me and feel it's appropriate, use the inhibitor. If it's not appropriate, just kill them with a knife. Any questions?" Natasha shook her head, no. She knew that she was just a pendant, and it was enough for her to play supporting role and gain some economic benefits. "Okay then. I'll wait for you in the central control room." Leon flew up, and the neon lights on the runway illuminated half of his body red. He flew higher and higher, soon attracting attention. A piercing alarm sounded inside the fortress. The soldiers patrolling the deck quickly gathered and prepared to open fire. Natasha looked around, looking for a suitable opportunity to help Leon relieve the pressure. But before she could act, Leon, whose air was filled with red crosshairs from his gun, took action first. Natasha felt her eyes blurred, and the scene she saw seemed to suddenly have several circles of lines surrounding the fortress. She squeezed her eyes shut. When I opened my eyes again, the lines disappeared. Leon was still there, but the red spots on his body had gone out. "I'll go in first. Hurry up and don't make me wait too long." Leon waved at her, then stabbed into the fortress like a sharp arrow. Natasha was still in a daze when she suddenly heard the sound of bodies falling to the ground one after another. She opened her eyes wide and looked in the direction of the sound. She saw that the deck in front of the fortress entrance was filled with unconscious combatants. Oh, God, it turns out that the line just now was Leon's extremely fast figure. In the blink of an eye, he actually knocked down dozens of people and threw them all in front of her. "Is this Superman?" "It's incredible." Natasha could hardly hide her shock, but she acted quickly. Since her participation in the battle is completely unnecessary, then what she has to do is actually very simple. That is to give inhibitors to all widows known and unknown. As for the other soldiers, she shot them all in the head. Natasha knew it well. In the deformed intelligence agency called the Red House, there are only two kinds of people, controllers and the controlled. These people who are not widows do not need to be identified. They are all in a dominant position and play the role of oppression and stability maintenance. None of them is a good person. After Natasha gave all the widows inhibitors, she rushed into the fortress in the direction of Leon. Leon's attack was not gentle. The widows would probably be unconscious for a long time. She couldn't wait here. For Natasha, the interior of the Red House fortress was completely different from the spectacular exterior scene. She felt like she was at home there and was very familiar with every place. The only difference was that everyone she met along the way, at the doorways of rooms and on the passage decks, was lying unconscious. These people had calm expressions, without a single scar on their bodies, and their movements when they fell to the ground looked like they had fallen into a peaceful sleep. Natasha could fully imagine how free and unrestrained Leon felt when he broke into this heavily guarded fortress. Without any hesitation, she finished off the enemy with her left hand and used the inhibitor with her right hand, then quickly chased after the command room. But too many people were knocked unconscious. Even though she moved quickly, it took her almost 10 minutes to finish the injection and get to the central command room. Before she opened the door, she heard a familiar voice from inside. "I apologize to you, Honorable Superman. Please forgive my overstepping of authority. I swear I have absolutely no idea about your relationship with Mr. Tony Stark." It was Drekhov's voice. "Forget about begging for mercy. I've listened to you talk about moral principles for several minutes, about how widows control the world and how to create peace, and now you're telling me this." Leon said. "Well, then what do you want me to say? I can say anything. How about we talk about Gorbachev's embarrassing moments? Okay, whatever you want to say, I'll send you to tell God. You already know about the relationship between Tony and me, and you still think you can get away with it alive." There was silence in the room for a while. The voice at the beginning suddenly laughed sharply. "Hee, Superman, you've been fooled. Why do you think I keep procrastinating? The pheromones I emit will control the people around me and prevent them from attacking me. You have already inhaled a lot of pheromones. You can try to attack me again." When Natasha pushed the door open, the person he saw was his old boss, General Drekhov, with neatly combed hair, black-framed glasses, and a short and fat body in a suit, lying on the table. She stared at Leon, who was standing on the other side of the table with wide eyes and slanted lips, mocking him shrilly. Chapter 44. Impossible to be together. "It seems like I'm here at the wrong time." She pointed outside the door to the two people who were looking at her at the same time. "Natasha, you're the one who brought Superman here. You damn snapped." As soon as Drekhov saw Natasha, he became furious and started cursing. But he had barely finished his curse when Leon slapped him on the back of the head, causing his head to hit the table and his brains to splatter. "This guy is so talkative that it's unbearable. He also looks like a beast in human clothing. I can't help but want to slap him." Leon reached out and wiped the splattered blood off Drekhov's clothes. He tilted his head towards Natasha. "You don't mind if I kill him?" Natasha shrugged nonchalantly. "I wanted to do that a long time ago." "But how did you do that?" "It's those pheromones he just mentioned." She walked towards Leon. "That pheromone can make people unable to attack him. We have all experienced it. Why are you not affected?" Leon grabbed Drekhov by the collar and threw him to the ground. His eyes shot out heat rays, instantly burning the mastermind behind the scenes to ashes. "Abnormal pheromones can't even exist for a second in my body. How can they affect me?" Leon brushed off the non-existent dust on his hands. This guy always has wild ideas. Unless it is mental or magical control. Otherwise, how can you control the Kryptonians who have been exposed to the sun for more than half a year? This level is still far away. Natasha looked at her former boss who had turned into dust on the ground and opened her mouth slightly. Heat ray, ha, another amazing new ability. I'm almost used to being shocked by the new things you show me. Treasure boy, how are you going to scare me next time? She laughed silently. But before that, you can tell me how you want me to repay you. I will agree to any condition. Natasha, do you know that your tone right now is like a 30-year-old working woman who goes to a bar after get off work at night to find a handsome male model to relieve her fatigue? There is a huge screen in the room. On the desk opposite the screen, there is a built-in control panel. Leon walked to the table and tried to operate the panel. If you want to repay me, let the widows come and work for me. But the first step is to remove the control that widows around the world are under. Glad to help. Natasha went to Leon's side and watched his movements. Then I'll go check on the widows on the aircraft carrier. I'll leave it to you to crack the system and find a list of widows from all over the world, okay? It's very simple. As soon as Leon finished speaking, a red interface suddenly popped up on the screen, prompting that palm print recognition was required to unlock. Palm print recognition? Leon tried several times but couldn't crack it. I seem to have been a little impulsive just now. Drakov should wait until later to die. He pulled out his phone instead, but I still have Jarvis. He can figure out this system. Leon connected the phone and the control panel with a data cable, and soon Jarvis' voice appeared on the loudspeaker in the room. Master Leon, Mr. Stark asked me to ask you if you will be going home tonight. Jarvis' first sentence was explosive. Leon's face was dark. No, tell him not to mess around when I'm not at home, or I'll ask Pepper to urge him to go to work tomorrow. Okay, I'll pass your message on to Mr. Stark. Jarvis paused and continued. He asked me to tell you the same thing. If you don't come home at night, remember to take safety measures and be careful not to be cheated by bad people. Leon slapped himself in the face. Let him take care of himself first. A childish old ghost, and he thinks I'm a child all day long. Come on, I was more mature than him when I was 3 years old. Puch tilde cough cough. Natasha on the side couldn't help but laugh out loud. Leon gave him a death stare, and Natasha tucked her red hair behind her ears and looked away. Next time I introduce that childish Tony to you, you will definitely find him extremely boring. Leon curled his lips. He turned around and prepared to let Jarvis start cracking the Red House system. But Natasha suddenly poked his cheek with her fingertips, then immediately let go. Following his gaze, Natasha retreated to the door with her back to him and waved her hand. To be honest, I only need to know one childish Stark. Natasha said this and ran, disappearing around the corner outside the door. Leon was stunned, another childish ghost. At this time, Jarvis, who had been silent for a while, suddenly said, "Congratulations, Master Leon." "Congratulations?" Leon was puzzled. "Congratulations on finding your 4th girlfriend," Jarvis said. "Your first 3 girlfriends only dated for half a month before breaking up with you because they got a check from Mr. Stark. I hope you'll have a long-lasting relationship this time." Leon's memories were brought back. He closed his eyes in anger. That's because Tony always thinks I'll be cheated of love and money, and he also said that emotions should just stay on the physical level. Every time I just got a girlfriend and the girls just spent a few nights with me, he would wave the check. He's killing my youth. But the fact is that those girls are really after your money. Jarvis supported Tony. Mr. Stark just did what Miss Pepper would normally do for him. Leon curled his lips. Every time it's a check for $1 million, whoever comes here will have to break up. So you plan to stop Mr. Stark from paying for your breakup this time? No, because it's impossible for Natasha and I to be together. Leon glanced at the corner where Natasha was still hiding and eavesdropping. But your relationship seems to be going well. Jarvis Code couldn't understand complicated emotions. Leon shook his head. This is different. He explained, I knew from the beginning that all Natasha needed was a place to belong. She has lived in an environment full of tragedy since she was a child. Her adoptive parents are undercover agents posing as a married couple, and the so-called family affection is all castles in the air. And when the fake family was broken up, she was sent to the Red House for training and transformation. The painful training and tormenting career as a killer left her with no sense of identity. She is like a duckweed floating in the ocean without a stable place to stay. What this duckweed lacks most is actually a mudflat where it can stop and take root. It would be best if there were other duckweed on the mudflats. Everyone might be wobbly, but it would be lively and bustling. The beach is actually a place of belonging. It's not just one person, but a family with brothers and sisters. So Natasha doesn't need a lover, she needs a place where she can feel like she belongs. We won't be together. Lion, who knew all of Natasha's past and future, knew it very well. Of course, Natasha has her own favorite people and good friends, but she will keep a proper distance from everyone. That sense of alienation was her disguise to protect herself. It is also her support for maintaining relationships. Boom! Suddenly, there was a sound of something falling outside the house, followed by a series of messy footsteps that gradually faded away. It was obvious that Natasha's secrets had been revealed, and she left in a panic. Master Leon, Miss Natasha was outside just now, Jarvis reminded. I know. Leon nodded. You know her well. Do you like her but don't dare to get close to her? My Jarvis. Only Tony would do something like what you said. I have nothing but admiration for Natasha. So you don't intend to stay with her? My relationship with her can be simpler. For example, we can talk about our concerns together in the dead of night. According to Mr. Stark's behavioral logic, all the things we talk about at night will become noise-making activities. That's the logic. Chapter 45, Incorporation in Progress. Let's stop chatting here, Jarvis, and hack into this host now to unlock the system blockade. Leon ordered. Okay, Master Leon. Jarvis' program successfully invaded the Red House host. The bright red password box on the big screen was suddenly covered by a waterfall of blue code. Characters of 0 and 1 jumped rapidly on the screen. In the mainframe of the Red House, Jarvis can play an unprecedentedly powerful role. It even sighed, Master Leon, I feel as free here as if I were in the sea. Their host system performance is very superior. Then you can enjoy yourself more. I plan to give this fortress to Tony. You can stay here permanently. Leon stared at the screen, waiting for the results of Jarvis' operation. More than 10 minutes later, suddenly, a light flashed on the screen, and the system blockade was successfully lifted. Folders pop up one after another, arranged in order of confidentiality level from low-security files to high-authority confidential documents. Leon smiled with satisfaction. Jarvis, search for the key data in this system and retrieve the information of all the Red House Widow agents. Leon issued a new order. Jarvis responded quickly and began scanning and analyzing large amounts of data in the system. After a moment, it made a beep. Master Leon, all the corresponding information has been found for you. Jarvis reported. A file opened on the big screen. Densely packed profile pictures suddenly filled the screen and continued to slide downwards, revealing more portraits. There are at least 300 widows mark their locations on a world map. The screen flashed and a world map popped up, with avatars marked all over the world. From London and Paris in Northern Europe to Cape Town and Johannesburg in South Africa. From the holy city of faith, Jerusalem, to the free and open cities of Chicago and New York. More than 300 widow agents are scattered across various nodes around the world. Some are in high positions with great power, some are good at manipulating others, and some hide among the vendors as a hidden sharp knife. The Red House controls the world by controlling these widow agents. Jarvis, send a copy of the list and detailed information to Natasha. then transfer $100 million from my name to her so that she can establish a new organization center in New York. Leon's eyes became focused. Master Leon, perhaps you can inform Miss Natasha directly of the arrangements. They are coming to see you, Jarvis said. Natasha is coming with the widows? Leon looked towards the door, his ears moved slightly, and he heard a burst of dense footsteps. Those were silent steps that were exerted with special skills, and the widows had already turned this skill into a habit. Wow, what did I just hear? A man wants to spend $100 million on you. Natasha, how did you do that? Did you take off your clothes? Teach me how to get someone to give me so much money. We're going to need money in the future, right? The first person to come in was Natasha, followed by a girl who was mumbling something to her in Russian. The girl would never have guessed that Leon not only knew Russian, but could also hear her hushed whispers. Natasha rolled her eyes, ignored the girl behind her, and walked straight to Leon. Behind her were more than 40 widow agents. Under their blonde, black, and red hair, their blue, dark, and even purple eyes all looked at Leon in his uniform. There was still confusion and grief on their faces, but their eyes were filled with gratitude and admiration for Leon. It can be seen that Natasha should have already told them the general situation. I brought everyone here. Natasha moved aside to make room, her expression normal, as if she had not heard Leon's analysis of her before. They are all willing to join your organization or company and serve you. Leon glanced at Natasha and the girl behind her for a few more times. I can see that you encountered considerable difficulties in the process of persuasion. Natasha sighed. This is my sister, Elena. She pulled the girl behind her and said, she attacked me as soon as she woke up. She's just an impulsive child. Natasha and Yelena both had bruises on their faces. One had a bruised forehead and the other had a torn mouth corner. That was not an impulse, it was a punishment for you as a traitor. It was your defection that forced us to be subjected to stricter control. Yelena has short golden hair, looks neat and tidy, and her face still has a childish look, seeming to be younger than Leon. She first refuted Natasha's slander, and then stood at attention facing Leon. Thank you for saving us, Mr. Superman. We are willing to follow your orders. Leon smiled when he heard this and was about to say a few words to win people's hearts. As a result, Yelena immediately turned sideways and said to Natasha in Russian, My God, his chest muscles are so beautiful, they feel bigger than mine. Have you touched them? It's a waste that such a handsome man was seduced by you. Natasha and Leon's faces both turned dark. Without waiting for Natasha to deal with her rebellious little sister, Leon took the first step and gave a recruitment introduction in Russian to all the widow agents present. Everyone, I won't introduce myself anymore. Superman, Stark, I'm sure you are familiar with these two identities. First of all, I want to make it clear that although I helped Natasha destroy the Red House, part of my purpose was to gain your power. But this is not a mandatory requirement. After all, you have suffered enough. If you don't want to join, you can leave later, either returning to your ordinary life or using your skills to work hard. And those who are willing to join, stay. I will let Natasha set up an open company or organization in New York, and then you can all give full play to your talents. That's all I have to say. Those who don't want to join can leave after helping to clean up the bodies on the fortress. I'll let Natasha take you there. By the way, I'll also have Jarvis send you your family of origin information. Leon waved at the big screen. Jarvis. Okay, Master, all the information has been sent. Jarvis was very efficient, and all the widow agents' communication devices on the scene received the information. The widow agents looked at each other, but did not immediately check their own backgrounds. For these girls who were sent to the Red House at a young age, family is a very distant topic. This word, which should have been warm, sounded so strange in their ears, not much different from a bakery they happened to come across on the roadside. It can even be said that they are extremely unfamiliar and fearful about being able to make their own decisions about the future. In more than 10 years of their career in the Red House, they have never truly made a choice for themselves. Because every detail of their lives had already been planned by the Red House, even the way they died. Now, faced with the two options provided by Lion, they were flattered and secretly excited at the same time. The girls did not communicate. After a brief silence, they all came forward and surrounded Leon. "We are willing to follow your orders, sir." The uneven words neatly express the same meaning. Lion's tall figure stands out among the crowd of people in black uniforms. He looked around, his eyes passed over the tense little faces, and a smile appeared on his face. "Then you are welcome to join us." He opened his arms and said, "In the future, we will definitely accomplish many great deeds together that will be admired by the world. You will never regret your decision today. Now, your first task is to clean up the Sky Fortress and deal with all the bodies. After that, I will let Natasha go with you to relieve other Widow agents around the world." He held out his hand, and the widows all placed their hands on it, each girl's eyes sparkling. Chapter 46: Great Organization. The girls left one after another, and Leon turned back to look at Natasha and her sister, who was trying to take the opportunity to slip away. From the moment Leon spoke the first sentence in Russian, Elena's face turned embarrassed. She thought Superman could only speak English and seemed to know a little Chinese at most, but she didn't expect that he could even speak Russian. "I thought that after I regained consciousness, I would have a brand new life. Unexpectedly, I encountered my first social failure." At this moment, Elena just wanted to roll on the ground and disappear from here as soon as possible. But when she tried to get away with it, she was stopped by Leon. "Natasha, Elena, you stay here first." Natasha stopped without any doubt. Elena was stiff all over and pointed at herself with a wry smile. "Should I stay too?" "I think so." Leon nodded with a smile. He puffed out his chest deliberately. "You've been talking about my muscles just now, so I thought I should give you a chance." "Ah." Elena took a step back unexpectedly, and after hesitating, she actually stretched out her right hand. Can I touch it and try?" Natasha's face darkened and she slapped Yelena on the back of her head. "What were you thinking about when you woke up?" Yelena held her head in her hands, feeling aggrieved. "It was the boss who said he could give me a chance." She put herself in the shoes of Leon's younger brother very naturally. Leon shook his head speechlessly. How could a girl of Yelena's age have so many bizarre ideas? He said to the screen, "Jarvis, send the information of Widow agents scattered around the world to them too." "Okay." Natasha and the other person walked behind Leon and looked at the portraits of people from all over the world marked on the screen, vaguely realizing why Leon called them. "So you want the two of us to lead the other widows?" Natasha asked. "That's right," Leon nodded. "Yelena, as the two previous Black Widows, you two are the most suitable to be their leaders." "Ah, Black Widow? But I'm not." Yelena touched the back of her head, confused. "You're not?" Leon was stunned. In the original world line, Yelena surpassed all the records left by Natasha and became the new generation of Black Widow. "I didn't expect that. She isn't yet." Natasha smiled and said, "She was almost successful, but I broke those records again a year ago." Leon suddenly realized that this was an extension of the butterfly effect. "Thank you for the generous gift. No wonder my training load was doubled at that time. Do you know that it almost killed me?" Yelena grabbed her hair frantically. As she spoke, she rushed forward and tried to hug and throw Natasha to the ground, but was quickly suppressed. "Leon, ignore her. Just tell me what you want us to do," Natasha said as she pressed on Yelena. "After things here are over, you will lead others to rescue the widows marked on the map. After injecting the inhibitor, give them the same choice. Those who are willing to join can be brought to me, and those who are not willing to join will have their files destroyed." "Okay, I will complete the task as soon as possible." Natasha nodded solemnly, gratitude in her eyes. Her biggest wish before was to allow other widow agents to have their own lives. And now, thanks to Lion, this wish is about to come true. Natasha felt that she owed this man more, and she could no longer pay it back. Leon put his hands on the table, but this is just the preliminary preparations. After you finish, I will give you more important tasks. Boss, what is the mission? Are we going to save the world? Or do we have to fight against the evil dark forces? Even though Yelena was pinned under Natasha, she still shouted excitedly. Shut up! Natasha twisted her sister's arm and exerted force, and Yelena screamed and was defeated. Boss, save me, boss, Natasha's bullying me because of her age. She began to cry. Leon's eyelids twitched. Why didn't he remember Yelena being so jumpy in the movie? How old is she? He couldn't help but ask Natasha. This is not a child labor. Born in 1988, 20 years old. Natasha remembers her sister's birthday very clearly. Older than me. Leon was speechless and ignored Yelena. This girl must have been trapped in a cage for a long time. Now that she is suddenly free, her mind becomes active. Just ignore her. Boss, you don't turn around. Look at me. Natasha relies on the fact that she is 4 years older than me and Xiao. Yelena was punished by Natasha again. Her eyes were filled with tears, and she tried pitifully to move her boss with her eyes. However, Leon only left her with a ruthless back. Natasha shook her head helplessly and asked, Can't you tell us about that mission in advance? There is nothing to keep secret. The mission is actually very simple. Just let the widow agents around the world spread some evidence through their respective channels. Leon's face was reflected in a faint blue light by the screen. Some evidence that an evil organization that should have disappeared from history still exists and has taken root in the world. What organization? Natasha's pupils dilated. Hydra. Leon uttered a few words. Hydra. The organization that was destroyed by Captain America still exists. Oh my God, are we really going to save the world? It's so powerful. Yelena spoke again. Natasha also stared at Leon, waiting for him to give more details. Leon smiled. You have heard of an organization called SHIELD. Next few minutes. Leon gave the two of them a detailed account of the resurrection process of Hydra. So the two sisters felt extremely shocked in just a few minutes. They originally thought that the Red House was the most hidden and darkest organization in the world. Unexpectedly, there is always a mountain higher than the other. Hydra can actually occupy SHIELD. This shield is the biggest cancer in the world. Natasha, who was supposed to work at SHIELD, said this at this time. Yes, you're right. Leon could hardly suppress the smile on his face after hearing that. Watching Natasha as Nick Fury's confidant in the movie. Now he looks like a black salted egg that should be taken to the guillotine. He felt a subtle sense of pleasure in his heart. He's still wearing the Superman uniform. He shouldn't have such thoughts. It's a sin. He'll have to wait until he gets home and takes off his suit before laughing again. Soon Natasha took Yelena out of the command room. The two sisters had completely different expressions. Natasha's face was solemn, but she was full of fighting spirit. She thinks her hands are stained with blood, and what she wants to do most is to save the world and make up for her own sins. Even if she had to sacrifice for this, she was willing to do it. Or, after going through so much, she was naturally self-destructive, but she wanted to do more to make up for her mistakes before she died. But Yelena was different. She was so excited that she almost jumped up. He kept chattering as he walked out, saying that he was about to become a great hero. But no matter how the two reacted, they all felt more and more in their hearts that the organization that Leon was about to establish would be a great organization that worked in darkness and served light. However, if Leon could hear what they were really thinking, he would definitely slap the table and laugh out loud. After all, his original intention in establishing the organization was just to make the widow agents work better for him. Chapter 47, Party and Beach. Master Leon, maybe Miss Natasha is really good. She doesn't seem to be willing to bow down for money, and she has a righteous heart. After everyone had left, Jarvis spoke again. Leon said perfunctorily, "Yes, he is a good subordinate. He is loyal, indifferent to fame and fortune, and not afraid of sacrifice." "Where can you find such a good subordinate?" "Master, your perspective is really surprising. It is always beyond my calculations." "That's a must." Leon slid a few times on the electronic screen. "By the way, look in the Red House host to see if there are any documents related to Hydra. Please wait, there are 8 undercover files and 316 transaction files, all related to Hydra." Jarvis unfolded the folder on the big screen. It added, however, the Red House did not know that the undercover agents and transactions were with Hydra. "I retrieved the above results based on the Hydra intelligence you uploaded earlier." Leon crossed his arms and said, 8 undercover agents. This Red House is really powerful. Even Hydra can go in undercover. The contents of the file show that another widow agent went undercover in a scientific research institution controlled by Hydra and was recommended to join SHIELD, Jarvis said. "In terms of identity, this widow agent is also a Hydra, although she is not aware of it. There is actually a double agent. Why do I suddenly feel that Drekov is also a genius?" Leon clapped his hands. He thought for a moment and said, "Let Natasha find a way to contact this widow first and give her an inhibitor. Then pack up all the Hydra-related files and send them back to Tony's mainframe. Also, remember to keep the parts of the document related to the Red House. You can use them to write articles later." "Okay, Master Leon," Jarvis responded. The file transfer screen immediately appeared on the big screen. "The file package has been transferred back to Mr. Stark's host." "Good job." Leon patted the table with satisfaction, just like patting Jarvis on the shoulder. He stretched his shoulders and said, "We can end our work for the night. Now it's time to enjoy the sunshine. And you, Jarvis, you're off work too. From now on, you can run whatever you want in the mainframe of this fortress." "Thank you, Master Leon," said Jarvis. "But I have to remind you that there are still 4 hours until your next scheduled sunbathing time. In order to predict the upper limit of strength increase, Leon has a fixed time for each trip to space to bask in the sun this month. If he wants to bask in the sun as he pleases, he will have to wait for more than half a month." "Okay, I forgot." Leon touched his chin. "Then I'll go help the girls clean up the bodies." He floated up, flew out of the command room, found the busy widow agents, and helped them carry the bodies. This meant that a job that should have taken several hours was completed in less than 10 minutes. So Leon simply called everyone together and held a party in the officers' mess on the lower floor of the fortress. When the party started, there were only simple fast food on the table, and the main attraction was a large amount of whiskey and champagne that Leon moved out of the wine cellar. The girls sat neatly at the dining table, each with a plate and a wine glass in hand. At first they sat there stiffly, at a loss as to what to do. Can't even adapt to this kind of eating activity without any time limit. But soon, bottle after bottle of high-end champagne sprayed into the goblets. Girls from all over the world gradually became more and more indulgent. They first communicated in a low voice. Then he gradually began to boldly ask Leon various questions. At last, the girls cheered, clinked their glasses, drank, and sang loudly around Leon, singing the nursery rhymes from their childhood memories. Various cheerful children's songs were sung in English, German, Chinese, and Portuguese. Nearly 100 arms of various colors took turns lingering on Leon, and were pushed away helplessly by him. The party was halfway through, but most of the girls were just getting excited. Their specially trained and even modified bodies are destined to make it difficult for them to get drunk. But this does not affect their increasingly bold actions and increasingly explicit words. Leon began to feel that what he was throwing was no longer a party, but so he tactfully closed the door and left the officer's mess, leaving behind a group of girls singing and dancing with blushing faces. Phew, I can't have dinner with so many girls next time. Leon grabbed a towel beside him and wiped the marks on his face. Especially the girl who can never get drunk and only gets more drunk the more she drinks. A female voice suddenly added gently. Huh? Leon turned back in surprise. Natasha was standing by the wall, and it was she who handed over the towel. Why don't you continue to have a few drinks with them? Your sister has started taking off her coat and dancing the Gobek dance. Leon joked. Natasha reached out and took the towel again, stepped forward and wiped the marks on Leon's neck and behind his ears. If I were in there, I wouldn't be able to wait for you, right? She blinked her beautiful amber eyes mischievously. Leon looked at the pretty face so close to him. It seems that I just escaped from the tiger's den and fell into the wolf's den? Have to admit, as long as you don't use supervision to observe, Natasha is a top beauty. What do you think? Natasha stood on tiptoe and hooked her arms around Leon's neck. She breathed wetly into Leon's ear. I don't stink anymore, bad guy. That's hard to say. Leon lowered his voice. Maybe you have to let me smell it carefully before I can know. Natasha tilted her head and pressed her cheek against Leon's. He sniffed lightly, but I think you smell really good. Do you want to come to my room tonight and see why you smell so strange? Are you serious? Natasha's fingertips slid down from the S-shaped logo on Leon's chest. That depends on whether you are willing to be the beach where I stop and take root. Extremely happy. The two figures overlapped, slowly moved into the elevator, returned to Natasha's room, and slammed the door. Beep, beep. Jarvis gave an urgent reminder, and the reminder sound kept ringing. Huh? What's wrong? Leon half opened his sleepy eyes, reached out, and groped for his cell phone from the Superman uniform on the ground following the sound. Ding! The phone screen lit up, and a wavy curve representing Jarvis appeared on the screen. Master Leon, I'm sorry to disturb your rest, but perhaps Mr. Stark needs your help. Tony? Hearing that his brother was in trouble, Leon woke up instantly and sat up. What's up with him? Mr. Stark is on the top deck of the fortress and has been stopped by the Secret Service ladies. There's an emergency. Huh? Deck? Agent? Why is he here? Leon felt confused. Tell him to calm down and not get into conflict with the widows. They are all on the same side. I will go find him right away. Leon pulled down the white arm that was draped over his body and slapped the bulge in the quilt beside him. You're awake, but still pretending to be asleep. I'm going to go check on Tony. You hurry up and follow me. Natasha opened her eyes, but there was no sharpness in them as before. Instead, they were like a deep green pool in summer, the water so rich that it seemed about to flow out. Then when will we meet next time? She sat up, hugging the quilt, her shoulder-length hair disheveled, revealing half of her rosy collarbone. Leon quickly put on his uniform. Come and see me when you want. What do you think our relationship is now? He also asked. Natasha gave a charming smile. You know me so well, you should know that. My only, most special friend? You're greedy, but I agree. Natasha hugged her knees across the quilt. You're my boss, but you can't deduct my salary in the future. Do you still need to worry about salary and benefits? Didn't you feel so overwhelmed by what I gave you last night? Leon raised his eyebrows. Hearing this, Natasha covered her head with the quilt and said nothing more. But after Leon left, she got out of the quilt again. In an empty room, with her eyes moving, she stretched out her hand and made a gesture of making a fist, her eyebrows raised in an inexplicable way, and a silent wow uttered by her lips. Chapter 48. The law of true fragrance comes late, but still comes. The nights over the Arctic Ocean in summer are short. Only 3 hours had passed since the party, but the sea of clouds where the fortress was hidden was already illuminated by the sunlight. When Leon turned on his supervision, he flew in the sunlight that came through the window. He thought he would see the scene on the deck where Tony was confronting a group of armed widow agents with his handheld cluster guns highlighted. The result was shocking. "What's going on?" Leon muttered, speeding up. On deck, Tony was blocked by 7 or 8 widow agents. The other 30 or so girls were looking at Tony and whispering to each other from a few meters away. There was even a smell of alcohol on their faces, and they would stretch out their hands and gesture from time to time, as if they were comparing something. But the weirdest thing was Tony. He was wearing the Mark Roman 3 armor and was neither flying in the air nor using his weapon systems. Instead, cross your hands in front of your lower abdomen, take a step to the right with your left leg, and then take a step to the left with your right leg. The movement was even more seductive than those models Leon had seen at the Victoria's Secret show in the past 2 years. "Tony, there's no danger. Why is the situation urgent?" Leon looked strange. "And what is he doing? Catwalking?" "No, that's stupid." Tony was still arguing with the widow agents. His visor popped open and his expression was inexplicably embarrassed. "I've already told you that your new boss and I are brothers. Do you understand, brother? I'm his brother. If you don't let me in, I'll transfer you to the company to be Pepper's secretary." The girl he was talking to was in a relaxed position, with her gun at her waist and her hands behind her back. She looked troubled. "Mr. Sark, I can't let you in without Superman's permission. Since you've already asked the AI to notify him, I'm sure there will be a reply soon. Just wait a little longer. But regarding what you just said, if Superman agrees, I am willing to work for Stark Group." She even started chatting. "Your group's salary is very high. I haven't received my salary yet. I heard that the coastal scenery in Los Angeles is also nice. Are you serious? Talking to me about salary now, huh?" Tony glared. "Nicole Parsons, if you let me in, I'll give you a monthly salary of 100,000. "Sorry, no, and my name is not Nicole Parsons. My name is Mary. That's the name of a female agent in the Bourne Supremacy." "Tony gave you a nickname, Mary." Leon, who had been observing the situation on the side, finally showed up. He landed and patted Agent Widow on the shoulder. "Well done. I didn't buy you a drink for nothing. Now let our Uncle Tony in." Mary and the widows finally made way for him with smiles on their faces. "Then don't run away during the next party. Drinking and chatting happily at the party. Let the girls get acquainted with Leon." Their behavior became more casual, but the respect in their eyes was no less, but rather more trusting. "Next time I will make sure you all get drunk before I leave." Leon smiled, turned around and opened his arms towards Tony. "Tony, how did you find this place? Look at your face, it's like these. Why are you coming out just now? Get out of the way, I want to go in." Tony pushed Leon away. His face turned red, as if he had held his breath in water for 3 minutes. "Jarvis, show me the way, and turn the propulsion power of the armor to maximum." All the thrusters of the Mark III sprayed fire at the same time, and it shot into the fortress like a cannonball. Natasha, who had just come out, almost bumped into him head-on. She quickly jumped aside and cursed. Leon was stunned on the spot, and then he finished the second half of the sentence, like a drowning frog. When the girls heard this analogy, they looked at each other and expressed their agreement. "Is that your brother Tony Stark? What's wrong with him?" Natasha walked over, patting the dust off her hands. Leon shrugged. "I don't know, Jarvis. What's wrong with him? No. Did he go into the bathroom?" I took a quick glance using my X-ray ability. He saw Tony taking off his armor in the bathroom, fiddling with it for a while and then letting out a long sigh of relief. Leon's expression became strange. "Jarvis, how long has Tony been on the road?" 3 hours. "Mr. Stark has been very busy today and hasn't had time to deal with his physiological problems," Jarvis said. "Haha. Leon laughed out loud, so he couldn't hold it in anymore. I was wondering why his feet kept twisting back and forth. The girls present also realized that it was no wonder that Tony Stark had been so strange just now. For a moment, the deck was filled with laughter, and everyone had a deep understanding of the Stark brothers. I'll go see what Tony wants to do. You guys continue with your work. Leon flew up and returned to the inside of the fortress. Tony, do you still think fluid circulation systems are gross? The first thing Tony saw when he walked out of the bathroom was Leon leaning against the wall and asking him a question. Tony's expression suddenly froze. After a few seconds of silence, he turned his head away as if nothing had happened. Sometimes you have to admit that it's the function that's important, not the appearance. So you don't feel sick now? Leon put his index finger on his forehead. I remember someone said a few days ago, okay, I admit that you are more foresighted. The armor does need a liquid circulation system. Tony's face changed and he quickly changed his words. He grabbed Leon and ended the topic. I'll add more functions when we get back, okay? Now why don't you take me around your fairytale castle? Get Tony's surrender. Leon gained a lot of emotional value. He decided to stop while he was ahead and followed Tony's lead and said, okay, let's go this way first. By the way, how did you get here? Jarvis told me that a girl kidnapped my brother while I was away. I was worried that he would be deceived and lose his way, so I rushed here overnight to protect him. Tony spread his hands. Are you moved by this story? But this brother actually acted aggressively when I made a fool of myself. Is that too much? Leon couldn't help laughing. It was you who was shot in the knee by your own boomerang. Who said that you would never use a fluid circulation system even if you were beaten to death? Besides, your lies can only fool Pepper. Why did you come here? Tony shrugged. Jarvis said a little princess had built a huge fairytale castle for me, so I came here to see how it went. Jarvis told you? Well, I didn't ask for it to be kept secret. Leon stepped forward to lead the way. Come this way, I'll show you the functions of this fortress. Also, this is your 40th birthday present. There's still plenty of time. The two men walked from the command room on the upper floor of the fortress to the engine at the bottom. Tony was analyzing the whole time. The whole body has invisible coating, radar-absorbing materials, and optical stealth. They are really rich, worthy of being the legacy of a superpower. Look here. This fighter's power system is pretty good, but it's still 20 years behind my suit. Chapter 49, 1 person and 1/2. What is that? An anti-gravity device made of propellers. Have I suddenly returned to the age of discovery? Why doesn't aerospace carrier use propellers? We have to rebuild this fort. Tony was completely into the state, his eyes moving rapidly, pointing at one module after another and expressing his ideas for transformation. Replace the energy system with an arc generator, change the anti-gravity propulsion device to focused energy, and strengthen the stealth system also. I can build armor storage warehouses on the deck, so that the armor can be deployed in real time. Wait. Tony, wait a moment. Seeing that Tony had taken the initiative, Leon interrupted hurriedly. What? Do you have any other suggestions for transformation? Tony now attaches great importance to Leon's scientific research talent. No, I mean, you seem to have made a mistake. What's up? This fortress is not yours yet. What? Jarvis clearly said you gave it to me. I told you it's a 40th birthday present. Are you 40 now? You're still a few months away from 39. Tony was shocked. 40 years old? Are you going to leave this fortress idle for the rest of the year? Of course not. I still have a use for myself. The widow agents still need this fortress, and so you're giving me a three-handed birthday present. Tony became serious and said, Leon, what makes you so cruel that you are unwilling to give even a second-hand gift to your brother? Has your brother treated you badly for so many years? It can be seen that he really likes this sky fortress. Although during the visit, he kept nagging and finding fault. He also said that he could only accept this gift reluctantly. but his eyes were always shining. It's like a little boy getting the transformer he's always dreamed of. Of course I'm not well. Tony interrupted again. Before your 40th birthday, we'll each share this fortress. By then, it'll be like you giving me a gift worth 2.5 hands. Leon hesitated. But Leon, you can't transform the entire fortress by yourself, right? Tony said again. Those big eyes were almost staring at Leon's face. Leon's scalp tingled when he was stared at by Tony's eager eyes. He raised his hands in surrender. Okay, for now, you take half and I take half. Usually I would have the widows stationed here to conduct mission handovers and personnel transfers. As long as you don't affect them, you can do whatever you want. Tony was delighted. Of course, I will never affect the work of those girls. But why do you always call them widows? Does the Red House specifically look for widows to train? Leon shook his head. They were selected by the gene sequencing project when they were young, and then sent here. He gave a brief introduction to the history of the Red House. Tony's face grew a little grim after hearing this. Training and reforming little girls. First it was Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D., then it was the Red House. Under the peaceful surface of this world, I wonder how many evil organizations are hiding in the dark. Take me to meet the girls. Also, since you're planning on establishing a new organization, maybe you should give them a new name. You can't have a bunch of girls around you claiming to be widows all day, can you? That would make you look like a heinous medieval lord. Tony always had a warm heart. Leon nodded. They will naturally have new names later. When the two returned to the deck, the girls are still here, basking in the sun, gazing at the sea of clouds and chatting. The content of the chat was incoherent and they talked about everything they could think of. For them who had just gained freedom, just sitting like this, even for a whole day, was extremely comfortable. When they saw Leon, all the girls stood up and surrounded him. After introduction and communication, Tony talked at length about his plans for renovating the fortress, and take the initiative to propose. To the widow agents who are responsible for guarding the fortress, he will pay the other party a monthly salary of $100,000 until he changes jobs and leaves. However, during the communication, Tony found that the girls looked at him very strangely. He asked Leon several times and found out that it was because he was holding his urine in the armor, which was already known to everyone in the fortress. So, Leon and Tony quickly said goodbye to the girls and left the Sky Fortress together. Tony left partly out of sheer embarrassment. Part of the reason is that he still has to go back and prepare for today's press conference. If she missed the press conference, Pepper would be angry for a long time. It's time for Leon to bask in the sun. He was going to fly straight back to the capsule and sleep. By the way, he carried a new hatch of the spacecraft up and repaired it last week. When I first woke up, my heart was filled with emotions and I just wanted to destroy something to test my strength. As a result, the hatch suffered an unexpected disaster. In the end, of course, he had to repair it himself. On the deck of the fortress, the widows looked at the two people flying away with envy. It's great to be able to fly freely. Yelena said, I wonder if there will be a chance for the boss to build me a battle armor in the future. That's so cool, okay? Flames burst out from under my feet, and whoosh, I fly away. Natasha didn't say anything and just watched Leon disappear into the clouds. Yelena noticed her sister's abnormality and bumped her with her shoulder. Hey, stop looking, everyone has left. You were alone with the eldest brother for the past few hours, you haven't seen enough. None of your business. Natasha pushed her sister away. That's my responsibility. Yelena moved closer again with dissatisfaction. She suddenly thought of something. Oh, you guys should have just now. How do you feel? The other girls also became interested when they heard this topic and all came over. Yeah, Superman is so strong. How do you feel about that? Let's talk about it. Is it as strong as a hydraulic press driving a pile? Or as fast as an electric drill? We can't even eat it. If you don't tell us, we'll be so jealous. The widows turned into curious babies, and the only thing missing was to have the word curiosity written in their eyes. Natasha looked coy and stretched out her hands in the air. It feels a bit like flying in the sky and it never stops. And it's very strong. Ah, shit. Natasha, you deserve to die. My Superman. When you really hear what you want to hear. The curious babies were mentally broken. The scene was filled with howls of ghosts and wolves. 10:00 a.m. in Los Angeles. Stark Industrial Park. The press conference was held on time. Pepper read a long speech on the stage. That is a plan for the deployment of new energy supply. However, this is just a preliminary explanation. Real cooperation can only be carried out through connection with major sovereign states. The reporters in the audience flashed their cameras, and everyone was quiet until Pepper finished speaking. They knew they were witnessing something that would change the world. As long as they perform well enough. Perhaps in the future they will be included in textbooks because of the wonderful report they issued today. However, when Pepper finished speaking, the question and answer session that the reporters had been looking forward to never came. Pepper stepped aside to make room on the stage, and Tony Stark walked up instead. Well, don't be anxious, I'll just say a few words. He put his hands on the podium. The crowd calmed down after a brief commotion, with hundreds of eyes waiting for Tony's next speech. Chapter 50, Fury jumps off a cliff. Wow, it's finally starting. Jarvis, remember to record it. At the outermost edge of the crowd, Leon, who had just returned from space, was holding a bucket of popcorn, looking like he was enjoying a good show. Even though the timing was not right, it was still a chance to watch a big Marvel event live. Mr. Leon, you seem to be looking forward to Mr. Tony's next speech. Suddenly a voice came from the side. Leon frowned slightly, glanced at the person who spoke, and stopped as he was about to walk away. You are an acquaintance. Leon recognized at a glance the middle-aged man next to him who was dressed in a suit, had a slightly bald forehead and a kind face. Isn't this Coulson, a die-hard fan of Captain America? My name is Phil Coulson from the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency. Coulson handed over a business card with a smile. What a tongue-twisting name. What do you want to talk to me about? Leon took the business card. We are a department independent of the FBI and CIA. We want to talk to you about some recent events in the Middle East. Leon glanced at the business card and stuffed it back into Coulson's hand. You don't have to ask me. What Tony wants to talk about now is what happened there. You just need to wait. Coulson looked at Tony on the stage in surprise, and had a feeling that something big was going to happen today. Thank you. He nodded politely to Leon, then walked out, took out his communication equipment and started contacting his superiors. Well, recently, I'm sure you've all been paying attention to what's happening in the Middle East. Tony flipped through a few pages of his speech on the stage and threw them aside. There are some barbarians there with weapons they got from nowhere, killing civilians wantonly. Of course, it was Obadiah who secretly supplied them with weapons in the past. Now he's gone, but those people still have weapons. Tony was about to continue when a reporter raised his hand and asked, Are you talking about the 10 rings that kidnapped you and were then destroyed by Superman? Almost, but there are some differences in the details. Tony choked. As expected, no matter what the matter is, these reporters can always link it to Superman. Tony chose to abandon the long-winded foreshadowing and go straight to the key points. You are also aware that most of the 10 Rings forces are in the Middle East. Actually, it was in Afghanistan. There was a man in steel armor there recently, who wiped out the gang. A lot of people started paying attention to him and thought he was a hero. I want to say that he has many shortcomings and made many mistakes when he was young, but you still think he is a hero, which is actually another reporter raised his hand. Are you talking about the Iron Man who recently imitated Superman? You know him well? Tony's words got stuck in his throat. He looked at the reporter for a long time. Then suddenly he said, "That's Iron Man, not Iron Lad. And I am Iron Man." There was silence. Everyone looked at Tony, thinking he was livening up the atmosphere. There were even a few people who forced out dry laughs to join in the fun, indicating that they were indeed amused. The only one in the crowd who was actually laughing, and even laughing happily, was Leon. This made Tony's face darken. He pursed his lips in annoyance, took a step back, and shook his hands, revealing 2 bracelets. "Jarvis." Boom! The next moment, an elliptical metal flying cabin rushed in from outside and passed over the reporters' heads. Amid screams and dodging, the flight module disintegrated and covered Tony. "I'm Iron Man." The armor was put on and the visor was closed, and the crisp sound of iron scales snapping together could be heard continuously. Tony once again announced his identity in a calm but firm tone. This time everyone was looking at him in shock. The golden-red armor in the center of the podium was like an industrial treasure, shining brightly. Everyone's heart was trembling. Then, a huge crowd surged, with hundreds of arms raised high, rushing to the podium and noisily asking their questions. "Evening. Honestly, you might as well just wear your armor and then you won't be stumped by reporters' questions." Leon pushed open the door of the mansion and said to Tony behind him. After the press conference, Pepper forced him and Tony to sit in the company for a whole day. The mountain of documents seemed to have no end. The super brain seemed to make a sound of protest. Leon decided, "Wait until Natasha rescues all Widow agents. Let her be the president of the internet company. This job is a bit tiring." But it seems that he trusts Natasha. Natasha must feel a great sense of accomplishment as she handles multiple transactions worth tens of billions of US dollars every day. As for establishing an organization, leave it to Yelena. The little girl needs more exercise to grow up quickly. The more Leon thought about it, the more they felt that this decision was feasible. It would be another win-win situation for all 3 parties. Anyway, there is no way I can attend this class. He worked before traveling through time and he still worked after traveling through time, so didn't he travel through time in vain? But that's all for later. Now, he just wanted to have a good dinner. Use delicious food to heal the fatigue from work. However, as soon as he walked through the door, Leon stopped. Tony's questioning voice followed behind him. "Do you really think so? I saw it clearly at the time, and you were the one laughing the loudest in the whole audience. Why are you standing still?" Tony popped his head out from behind Leon. In front of the huge floor-to-ceiling window, a man in a black windbreaker hanging down to his ankles, with his back to the 2 of them, was looking out the window at the sea in a lonely manner. That dark head, deliberately mysterious style. Who else could it be but Nick Fury? "Jarvis," Tony called. "Welcome home, Mr. Stark and Master Leon." Jarvis responded immediately. "It looks like local electromagnetic shielding. Good technology," Tony praised. He realized that part of Jarvis' monitoring area was blocked. He looked at Leon. "What do you think we should do?" Leon snapped his fingers. "Jarvis, use the armor to blast the man standing in front of the French window out." "Okay, Master." Immediately, the sound of a mechanical assembly was heard from downstairs. "Wait. Don't get excited." Nick Fury, who was dressed in a cool and serious manner, panicked and turned around quickly. "I'm the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Hoogie Crab." Before he could finish his sentence, Jarvis had already controlled Super Mark I to go upstairs. The blue and red armor raised both hands, with the cluster guns ready to fire. I'll be back. We need to talk." Nick Fury saw that the artificial intelligence had no intention of stopping, so he broke through the floor-to-ceiling window and jumped off the cliff boom. After he jumped off the cliff, the cluster artillery passed by him. "Good job," Tony praised, walked to the window, and watched a parachute slowly unfold under the cliff. That guy really has a lot of backup plans, just like what you described. He sighed. Leon also came over. Jarvis, it seems we have to upgrade you, otherwise anyone can break in. Master, if it was a mainframe of the Sky Fortress, I shouldn't be blocked by him. Wow, you still know how to make requests. Then I'll upgrade your console. Tony looked at Leon at this time. Come to think of it, if your Black Widow's men had been kicked out by you when they came yesterday, we wouldn't have been able to find the Red House. Why didn't you do it then? He asked. Because there are some things I want to confirm. Leon blew towards the French window, blowing all the debris off the cliff. I plan to get some information from her, so I won't chase her away directly. What information? Secret. You and I have such a secret. I think you are just greedy for her body. Tony raised his voice. Of course, this factor is involved. I just made the mistake that all men would make. Leon walked towards his room. You make sense. Tony put himself in her shoes and realized that he had no way of rejecting a beautiful woman who came to his door. Chapter 51. Half a month. Half a month passed quickly. Nick Fury said he would come again, but he never came. Tony said that he packaged the Hydra intelligence and sent it to Black Egg's email. I guess the other party is now facing his own shield, which is full of holes, and cursing you 100 times every day. But during this period of time, Natasha has led the girls to free more than 200 widow agents from control. Most of these widows were willing to join the organization that Leon had not yet established. There are less than 24 widow agents. They choose to quit either because they are exhausted physically and mentally, or because they want to pursue their own future. Leon also destroyed the files of these people as instructed. However, perhaps in a few years, some of them will regret the decision they made on this day. Tony, at Pepper's request, also began to return to the company to help. After all, the deployment of new energy sources cannot be separated from it. Leon's biggest gain in the past half-month is the growth of strength and the end of the upper limit prediction experiment. 2 days ago, Leon went home after sunbathing, finishing the thrust test. Tony looked at him again as if he were a monster. With a force of 890,000 tons, your strength has almost doubled in half a month. Leon nodded calmly. I can feel that the speed of my power growth is accelerating, a bit like it is growing in a geometric progression. But in the past 2 days, I've noticed that the gap in increases, which have been getting bigger each time, has started to narrow. Maybe this means I'm approaching my peak growth. So I'd rather get a cap prediction. Today is the last day, right? It's time to get the results. Give me 5 minutes. Tony walked to the computer and started calculating quickly on the screen. As he said, 5 minutes later, a forecast chart full of dots and lines was printed out. Okay, done. Leon pulled out the blueprint and read it carefully. Tony acts as narrator. The dots record the power of each jump after you finish sunbathing, and the lines are the increase. According to the model we built, your upper limit of strength will be around 2 million tons. Well, 2 million tons for one arm. Tony looked at Leon's face, found nothing unusual, and continued. And 1 million tons is your peak. Before the peak period, the strength will grow faster and faster like a snowball. After that, your strength growth rate will gradually slow down until it reaches the upper limit. After Tony finished speaking, he observed Leon carefully. He knew that his younger brother had always wanted to pursue power, and he would probably not be in a good mood when he suddenly heard that he had a limit. However, Leon remained calm. He even felt strange. What's that expression on your face? It's like you're afraid I'll burst into tears. So you took out a tissue in advance to comfort me. Don't you feel sad about the fact that you have an upper limit? Tony asked, pointing at the prediction chart. Why should I be sad? This is expected. After knowing the result, I have a direction to work towards, said Leon. This is the case. I know that 2 million tons with one arm is my upper limit. Then before reaching the upper limit, he can continue to bask in the sun while looking for other ways to become stronger. First, you can consider going to Kamertaj to study. You can also go to Daluo village in Kunlun to learn some Qigong. There are so many crooked ways to become stronger in Kamertaj. For example, using the contract signed with the devil to become stronger. Sign the weaker ones first, and then devour them. Then sign the stronger ones and climb up the road to becoming the demon god. This is a viable path that has already been taken by a certain Doctor Strange. Kunlun can seek the power of the dragon. That is a multidimensional level of power, although the probability of obtaining it is very small even after exploring these powers of this world. He can also use his ability to travel through time and space to go to other worlds in order to become stronger. In the past, Leon was always a little cautious, thinking that it would be best not to step out of the current world before he became strong enough. However, now he should be considered to be barely qualified to set foot in other worlds. Tony then said, "Speaking of which, I watched a Superman cartoon a few days ago. The Superman inside suddenly absorbed too much power, reaching the force of 200 trillion tons, and his body began to naturally collapse. I think that for most ordinary Kryptonians, 2 million tons may already be an unattainable limit." Leon thought about it and agreed. Maybe it's true. After all, there is an upper limit to race, so if you want to break through this limit, is it true that you have to stop being a Kryptonian? He secretly complained in his heart. 2 days later, a sumptuous dinner ended. Tony continued to retreat into the laboratory to do research. Leon flew into space. After the simulation test, he basically felt like he was rooted in the space capsule for the past few days. Except when I feel hungry, I will go home for dinner. He even ignored Natasha's request for salary yesterday. Enter the space capsule again and return to the familiar titanium alloy steel plate. Leon soon fell into a comfortable sleep. This night, it should have been peaceful like this. But unexpected guests always come without warning. Tony Stark didn't know that. The wind that announced his identity to the whole world has now blown to the hidden corners. The moon is bright and the stars are sparse and floating clouds are floating in the sky. Under the cover of night, a group of masked men in black hid in the shadows of the clouds and attacked Stark's mansion like a sobug emerging from a hole. They looked like some kind of ancient knights, with their eyes, the only thing exposed, being determined and ruthless. It seems as if he came here just to rob the rich and help the poor. But it also looks like a ninja that has been passed down for thousands of years. Everyone's footsteps will be imprinted on the previous one. No one made any sound, and each one was like a cold sword hidden in its sheath. They walked in the blind spot of all monitoring equipment. Sometimes they leap together, sometimes they crawl, like a group of water spiders jumping on the water. The group of water spiders eventually lurked on the roof of Stark's mansion, located Tony's room, and landed using a grappling hook. Laser cutters, glass suction cups, silent gloves, they removed the glass from Tony's bedroom with extreme professionalism. Then one after another they slid into the house like swimming fish, without making any sound. The leader looked around the room and shook his head, indicating that Tony Stark was not there. He made a few gestures, signaling everyone to rush out together, kill people downstairs, and leave no one alive. Everyone nodded. The leader held up 5 fingers and began to count down one by one. Meanwhile, in the laboratory, Tony was leaning back in the soft chair, his chin propped up, thinking hard. On the screen in front of him was Jarvis's defense system. He was so busy during this period that half a month later, Jarvis' upgrade had not been completed. Talk about it. During the upgrade, he also specially replaced the monitoring equipment, and the original all-round monitoring without blind spots had gaps. However, the upgrade time is very fast, so there should be no problems. However, at this moment, an arm stretched out in front of him and waved. "I was still thinking about it, Tony, but the enemy is here to attack us." Leon reached out and took the glasses off Tony's face. While he was sleeping in space, he heard the sound of glass cutting and heavy footsteps in the house. The beautiful dream was suddenly awakened. Once his supervision was activated and he saw the situation clearly, he hurried back to the laboratory in 5 seconds. The increase in strength during this period has caused the strength of the biological force field to increase rapidly. Now, even if he flies at a speed of over 100 Mach, he can still fly as silently as a bird flying through the clouds. Huh? Tony was startled, and his face turned pale with shock when he saw Leon. What enemy? Jarvis didn't even warn me, damn. Could it be that black-brined egg again? Tony learned from Leon the adjective black marinated egg that combines taste and color. No, it's a group of ninjas or martial arts masters. Leon pinched his wrist. I came back to remind you to upgrade Jarvis quickly and then take action to deal with them. Chapter 52 Death Notice from the Huan Gang. Oh, no. When Tony heard that Leon was going to take action, he was startled and stood up immediately. They are obviously coming for me, so if they want to take action, I will do it. He waved his hand as soon as he finished speaking. Jarvis, armor. The flight cabin standing quietly beside the laboratory suddenly disintegrated and attached. Leon didn't stop Tony. The muscle density of the dozen or so people above is at the average level. Even if he might possess some mysterious power, he would not be a match for Tony. After putting on his armor, Tony smashed the glass door and rushed upstairs. You wait for my news down there. Tony's voice also rushed into the corridor. Handsome guys with diapers on their heads, here I come. It was obvious that he had been a little depressed due to his busyness during this period, and his true nature was immediately exposed when he put on the armor. Leon shook his head and went upstairs on the broken glass. The uninvited guests obviously did not expect the target to suddenly rush out from downstairs. As soon as Tony went up, he opened fire at full force, and the cluster guns rotated and bombed. The invaders were killed without any chance to fight back. Even if someone reacted quickly, they would be knocked to the ground by cluster artillery fire the moment they tried to resist. Tony was using full power and the ceiling of the villa was rumbling and vibrating. When Leon walked into the living room, the bodies were already lying on the floor and the wall was half cracked. Great, I can call the decoration company again tomorrow. The last man in black was forced into a corner by Tony. It can be seen that these attackers are professional killers. None of them screamed when they died. Even if only one person is left, will you fight to the end? Leon just thought that the last man would fight to the death. Instead, the man stepped back and took out a simple envelope from his pocket. He handed over the envelope, and at the same time, the knife in his hand swung around, cutting his own throat and dying on the spot. When his body fell, he was still in the posture of handing out the envelope. Well, it seems that he doesn't intend to fight to the death, but chooses to die to prove his integrity. Leon walked to Tony's side. No, he wanted me to see the letter click. Tony popped up his visor and the armor detached automatically. He took a step forward and was about to pick up the envelope, but Leon got there first. Be careful of the poison on the letter, Tony. It's better to wear armor next time you handle something given by the enemy. Tony was shocked. Poison the letter? Is there anyone who would do such a sinister thing? Some of the Eastern martial arts novels like to write this kind of plot. This group of people are sneaky and look like people who would do that kind of thing. Leon put the envelope to his nose and sniffed it. Okay, it's not poisonous. It seems that I thought too much. But why did he hand over this letter before committing suicide? He opened the envelope casually. Maybe some organization is trying to recruit me. Was that a test to join the organization? Tony came over to watch. Leon looked disgusted. Damn, what kind of middle school guess is this? Do you think you are the savior? He unfolded the letter. From the outside, this is a very ordinary letter, probably made of bamboo paper. People who are accustomed to using this kind of paper are basically from Southeast Asia. Could it be that the other party is the Shu Hui? The two of them read the letter line by line. To Mr. Tony Stark, congratulations on passing my test. Killed the Outer Ten Rings gang members who were going to carry out the assassination mission. Successfully proved that he was worthy of being beheaded by me personally. In recent years, you are the first person to reach this stage. First, let me introduce myself. I am Wenwu, the leader of the Ten Rings gang. The 10 Commandments gang that you wiped out half a month ago were nothing more than my poor imitators. I want to thank you for killing these shoddy knockoffs for me. But I'm sorry to inform you, although they are just imitators, they also represent the prestige of the Ten Rings gang throughout the world. Since you have announced to the outside world that you have wiped out the 10 Commandments gang, then I will have to kill you to maintain the reputation of my Ten Rings gang. In a month, I will come to your house in person to take your head. Signature. When the two of them quickly finished reading silently, Tony frowned. So, the Ten Rings gang is just the tip of the iceberg? No, the Ten Rings gang is actually a hidden organization. He thought of Hydra and the Red House. Any organization like this hidden in the dark corners of the world. Nothing he had learned so far was good. Tony was still trying to figure out the details of the Ten Rings gang, but Leon next to him just exploded. What a good man of both civil and military talents. Leon's eyes almost immediately glowed red. The letter in his hand shattered without warning. He floated up, his clothes moving without wind. The red light in his eyes grew brighter and brighter, like a demon crawling out of hell staring at all living beings. He was clearly not wearing the Superman uniform, but at this moment it seemed as if a blood-stained cape was fluttering behind him. Tony, you take a rest first. I'll go kill a few people and be back. His face was expressionless. It was as casual as if he was just saying that he was going to eat a piece of bread later. But the cold tone can make people shudder. Tony turned his head in surprise, but before he saw Leon, he felt as if a mountain was pressing down on him and took several steps back. You mean now? Tony looked at Leon, his heart trembling slightly. Ha, if the Ten Rings gang dares to issue a death notice in 1 month, I will make sure they never see the sun tomorrow. Leon just floated there. It gives people a sense of oppression, as if mountains are soaring in the sky and rivers are flowing backwards. It seemed as if the whole world would collapse like a mirror falling to the ground in the next moment. This was the first time Tony saw Leon so angry. His throat tightened and he felt uneasy for some reason. Leon, calm down. Calm down, Tony said hurriedly. He was looking for me, so I should be the one to deal with him. Don't be impulsive. Come down first. He jumped up and tried to pull Leon down, but Leon didn't move at all and he fell on top of him instead. He hugged Leon's calf and smiled awkwardly. Listen, Leon, let's not rush to take action. Look, it's me, Iron Man, who issued the challenge. I must respond to this challenge. Why did I hold that press conference before? Was it just to show off? Leon looked speechlessly at Tony hanging on his calf. The anger in my heart was temporarily extinguished because of this funny guy. Isn't it? He landed slowly, and Tony stood on the ground again. Look, you always misunderstand me so deeply. After Tony put his feet firmly on the ground, he immediately stepped forward and grabbed Leon's shoulder. I'm Iron Man. This is my responsibility, and you know what I wanted to do from the beginning, right? This is an opportunity. He said, the Ten Rings gang, just like the Ten Rings gang, is not a good thing. They provoked me, and I just happened to go after them. None of these dancers hiding in the dark are good people, so let me investigate and then deal with them, okay? Are you serious? The red light in Leon's eyes gradually faded away and turned back into black. He looked at Tony strangely. Do you really want to fight that Wenwu? Don't look at me like that. You've already dealt with the Red House, so why can't I deal with the Ten Rings gang? Do I look like I'm kidding? Tony smiled and spread his hands, feeling relieved. For some reason, he felt nervous when he saw Leon's furious look. This reminded him of himself 17 years ago, when he was squatting in front of his parents' tombstone, holding Leon and crying. That day, rain all over the world was pouring down like a silver waterfall curtain, and he couldn't tell whether it was tears or rain on his face. I couldn't tell whether I was angry, sad, or confused. His eyes were blurred with tears. Suddenly, Leon in his arms babbled and reached out to wipe the water stains off his face. Leon, who was still a baby at that time, seemed to have concern in his big black eyes, and his tender little hands patted his cheeks again and again. At that moment, Tony knew that this child was the only relative he had left in the world. He swore that he would never let anything happen to Leon. This little guy must have a smile on his face and be full of energy every day. Over the past 17 years, he has fulfilled that vow perfectly. But now Leon has grown up, even become a Superman, and even started to protect him in return. This made Tony very uncomfortable, and he had to admit that he could no longer protect Leon. However, when he saw Leon's furious look, his heart still tightened. It was a vague sense of self-blame. Blame myself for being too weak and no longer able to protect my brother. Chapter 53 New Elements. Leon had no idea of Tony's rich psychological activities. He glanced at the arc reactor in Tony's chest and shook his head. You can't beat him. Based on the performance of civil and military affairs in the movie, at least Tony in the late stage can have the strength to fight. As for Tony, who is still using the palladium arc reactor, sorry, that's too weak. You haven't even seen me fight yet and you're saying I can't beat him. But Tony glared at her, as if you know him very well. Leon picked up the two bodies on the ground and walked out. I actually know a little bit. The 10 Rings Gang is an organization that has been passed down for thousands of years. It is named after the leader's treasure, the 10 Rings. The 10 Rings possess incredible power, granting the user a long life and a super strong body. It is said that it has a special energy that can open up dimensions. That Wenwu was the one who obtained the 10 Rings 1,000 years ago and has lived until now. How can you beat such a person? The 10 Rings in the movie have the same names as the 10 Rings in the comics. But they are two weapons with completely different abilities. The 10 Rings are weapons of the mind energy type that can absorb and store kinetic energy. In the movie, this weapon has different powers in the hands of different people. The relevant settings were later added to the comics. It is said that the 10 Rings were originally the Jade Emperor's divine soldiers, but were left behind in the human world. As long as it's in the right hands, its upper limit of power is even close to the level of a single universe, comparable to the Infinity Stones. As for the origin of the 10 Rings in the movie, Leon had no idea. After all, the strength displayed by the two men who used the 10 Rings throughout the whole process seemed to make it difficult for them to even destroy a city. It's a far cry from what's described in the comics. Of course, even so, the civil and military skills are not what Tony can match now. Are you sure you're not telling a fairy tale? Someone who lived for 1,000 years and can open up dimensions? Tony questioned subconsciously, but Leon's expression told him that it was no joke. Okay, now I know that's true. Thank you for your answer, Lionpedia. Tony also put on his armor and started carrying the bodies with Leon. Let me think about in an organization with 1,000-year history and a living fossil old man. This is unheard of. But I still have to solve this matter by myself, Leon. If the other party is coming towards me, then I will face him. Leon dumped the body on the lawn and asked, how do you solve it? Just because of the poisoned arc reactor on the chest. After he said that, he went back to the house to continue moving the next batch of bodies. Tony followed behind. Don't say that. Let me try. If it doesn't work, you can do it again. With a Superman like you here, how can anything happen to me? But, did you know that palladium can cause poisoning? Tony was a little surprised. Leon silently mentioned 2 more people in his hand. I took chemistry in high school, thank you. He took 2 steps and suddenly stopped. If you really want to do it, then upgrade your armor first and heal the hole in your chest. Also, I've always wanted to ask, why do you always carry the reactor even though there's no shrapnel in your chest? Are you trying to show off by risking your life? Tony was a little embarrassed. There are some deep reasons behind this. Why do you have that guilty expression? Leon was suspicious. Don't tell me you forgot that palladium can cause poisoning. Are you kidding me? How could I possibly forget something like this? Tony looked embarrassed. I was just testing the effect of palladium on the human body. That's right. Leon covered his forehead and said, you are hopeless. I thought you had other plans, so I didn't ask. I didn't expect you had never thought about this issue. A week ago, Tony was still holding the arc reactor on his chest, showing it off everywhere like Astro Boy. Until last weekend when he came out of the lab. The big hole on the chest was finally filled with other fillings. I think it was because he felt unwell at that time that he remembered the palladium poisoning. That's all in the past. Tony threw the 2 bodies on the ground and shouted to change the subject. Only children are always thinking about the past. We should now think about how to improve the armor. Tony tried to put his hand on Leon's shoulder, but was dodged. He clapped his hands to hide his embarrassment. Since you said I can't beat that Wenwu, how about you help me develop the armor? In the next month, we brothers will work together to research and we will definitely make history. Leon, you don't want me, your brother, to be bullied by people outside, right? Leon raised his eyebrows. Oh, there is such a good thing. I have been waiting for you to be beaten for a long time. He refused. It is impossible to conduct research together. I still need to go to the universe to become stronger. But a few days ago, I used my supervision to check the files left by my father in SHIELD. It was discovered that he had long ago developed a new element suitable for arc generators. The clue is on the design display board in Stark Industrial Park. You can go and take a look. Leon chose to reveal the new element to Tony in advance. At the same time he piled all the bodies together, burned them all to ashes with heat rays. He blew out another breath, blowing all the dust out of the villa. Dad, Tony took off his armor on the other side. He researched a new element? Are you kidding? No joke, that was his last gift for you. Leon patted Tony's arm and walked into the house. Later you can ask Nick Fury for the documents left by your father. Everything he wants to tell you is in them. Leon temporarily gave up the idea of going directly to the 10 Rings gang headquarters to crush Wenwu's head. Since Tony wants to go, let him go. When you really can't win, you can take over yourself. After all, strictly speaking, this is indeed a personal grudge between the 10 Rings gang and Tony. Tony stood there in a daze for a long time. He probably didn't expect that he would receive a gift from Howard after such a long time. After standing there for several minutes, he went into the house and found Leon. So, you agree, right? I will solve the problem of the 10 Rings gang by myself. Tony was still thinking about the challenge. It's up to you, but I still don't think you can win. If you lose, don't ask Leon to save me again. Leon was preparing to go to space again. You agree? Great. I knew you would agree. You are worthy of being my brother. Tony cheered. He didn't take Leon's sarcasm to heart at all. Help? What help? Tony Stark will never yell for help again, even if he jumps off the cliff behind his house. He said it. No one can change it. Leon saw through Tony's thoughts and sighed. This Tony has been spoiled. Maybe I can get another one in the multiverse later. Wrong, don't be happy too soon. I've already told you that you will definitely lose. Are you still happy? He launched a verbal attack. Will we lose? That's not certain. As long as there are new elements, everything will be different. Tony waved his hand. You wish. The Mark Roman 3 plus the new elements is far from enough. Besides, the big hole in your chest is also a fatal flaw. Unless you can cure it, but there is no such medical technology now. Well, it seems uncertain. Leon stroked his chin and suddenly thought of something. There is no advanced medical technology on Earth, but there is in the universe. The universe is too far away. There are also other worlds out there. Leon suddenly felt moved. He just happened to be planning to travel across the world recently. Since this was his first time traveling through time, he wanted to find a world with a low upper limit as an experiment. So, why not just travel to a world that can heal Tony's chest injury, increase his strength, and has a low upper limit? Leon's eyes flickered, and he suddenly decided to leave. He had previously studied the ability to travel between worlds. As long as he thinks about the keywords in his mind, the teleportation ability will feed back the approximate energy value required to travel through the corresponding world. This is like a foolproof search engine. After entering keywords, it will prompt the traffic required to search and enter the corresponding web page. After Leon clicks confirm search and pays traffic, the ability will be activated, teleporting him to the target world. But there is a slight problem. This engine cannot recognize the names of movies from previous lives. He could only use keywords such as low upper limit and good medical technology to conduct global searches. Chapter 54, Across the World. Not necessarily. Do you have any ideas? Could you fill it with silicone or something like that? Tony said with disgust. Don't give me such a bad idea. I would rather build a new elemental arc reactor and install it. Of course not. I am planning to travel across the world soon. I am sure I can bring you good news then. Leon said. Travel through time. Tony muttered a few words, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Are you planning to go to other worlds? Oh God. You must take me with you. I've wanted to go for a long time. He suddenly became extremely excited. That's a different world. Will there be another me, or another you there? Will there be a world where I am Superman and you are Iron Man? Tony became more and more excited as he spoke. He took a few quick steps and was almost scratching his ears and cheeks. Wait, let me think about what I need to bring when I travel across the world. Iron armor, electronic equipment, US dollars. No, I need to bring gold, and it started again. This guy got excited again. Leon stopped Tony helplessly. You misunderstood again. I only planned to go alone, without you. Without me. Tony was stunned. Yes, no. Leon emphasized. Really? Tony looked incredulous. That's really not the case. Leon confirmed. You're just going to leave me like this? Tony's outstretched fingers were trembling. It's fine if you gave me a third-hand birthday present, but you won't even take me with you when you go traveling. The corner of Leon's mouth twitched. Tony's expression now looked like a husky abandoned by its owner, confused and shocked. No, because there are uncertainties here. I have to try traveling through it myself first. If the crossing process is stable and can bring people along, well, it seems like it can indeed bring people along. Anyway, I'll take you through time again when I have the chance. Aren't we going to the DC world? I'll take you with me then. Leon feels that his ability to travel through time is very inclusive. As long as he has enough energy, he could probably take the entire Marvel universe away with him. But this is the first time after all. I have a body of steel and can make mistakes, but you can't. Leon gave his reason. After hearing the explanation, Tony opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but in the end he just showed a regretful expression. He knew he was out of luck. After all, Leon was right. One should be more cautious when traveling for the first time. Adding him at this time is no different from adding a burden. He spread his hands and said, Have you ever thought about what to do if you encounter kryptonite right after you cross into another world? Well, should I go there wearing the Super Mark I? Leon thought for a moment. That's right. You have to go in armor. Also, bring 5 arc reactors, just in case. There's also the issue of sterilization and equivalence. You have to. Tony gave a long list of instructions. He didn't stop until he felt thirsty and drank some water. Okay, just make these preparations. When you are sure you want to travel through time, tell me and I will watch from the side. The next day at dusk, Leon stood in the middle of a circle of testing equipment in the underground garage. He was wearing a super Mark-I and carrying a large travel backpack. The backpack contains 5 arc reactors, 10 1 kg gold pieces, disinfectant spray, hemostatic spray. This backpack, which Tony prepared personally, contains all kinds of emergency items. Although Leon felt that most of them were unnecessary. Are you sure you want to leave now? Tony asked from behind the projection screen. That's right. Leon nodded, but I should be back soon. You know, with my strength, it's easy to do anything. Tony shook his head. I'm only worried about the kryptonite and the red sun. If you encounter danger when you go there, you must come back immediately. Don't worry, even if I'm restrained and lose my superpowers, I can still live well. Leon tapped his head with his finger. Superman has weaknesses, but the knowledge in his head will not disappear. I'm leaving now. He put his travel bag on the back of his armor. I hope you've successfully developed a new element when I come back. Tony went to the industrial park this morning and brought back the design display board. Then you have to come back soon, because I can create a new element core tonight. Tony smiled proudly. He studied it in the afternoon and discovered the secret of the display board based on Leon's hint. That is the structural diagram of a new element. He only needs to analyze the structural diagram and synthesize it using a particle collider, and he will soon be able to obtain a new element. As proud as Tony is after he figured out everything, he couldn't help but marvel at his father's wisdom. I hope so. Leon was also happy for his brother. I'm leaving. Take care of yourself and Pepper, Leon said and closed his eyes. On the other side, Tony also turned on the instruments one by one and began to record on-site data. Recording data on time and space travel is an opportunity that many scientists dream of, and he certainly would not let it go. Start searching the world. Keywords: treatment of severed limbs, enhancement of Kryptonian strength, low upper limit of supernatural power in the world, no threat. Successfully anchored the world. Calculate the energy required to cross. Crossing confirmed. Leon mobilized his ability to travel through time in his heart and determined the processes and values one by one. Soon, a clear message appeared in his mind, making him immediately understand that the other world had been successfully retrieved. Dozens of options appeared in his mind, all of which were worlds that met his requirements. Those worlds are like bubbles of chaotic black holes, and no information can be seen. He could only choose one of them at random. Then a feeling between reality and illusion came over him and enveloped him. In this state, he could vaguely sense the energy he needed to consume to travel through the world he was currently anchored in. About 1% of one's physical strength. Considering Leon's human-like natural disaster strength, this energy is enormous. Converted into specific numbers, it is at least equivalent to the world's power generation for 9 days. Now Leon understood why the gifts given by the original world were Kryptonian blood and time travel. If only Kryptonian blood. If he wants to achieve unlimited strength, he can only rack his brains to find opportunities in the Marvel world. But if I only had the ability to travel through time and space, I'm afraid he would have to spend countless time and money just to collect the energy needed for the journey. But now that these two abilities are combined, everything becomes natural and complementary. Leon felt an inexplicable feeling in his heart. Perhaps with the combination of the two abilities, he could really break the upper limit easily and become the strongest. It didn't take too long. Leon finally confirmed in his mind and began to cross. As soon as the thought came up, a powerful suction force appeared out of nowhere in his body. It was as if there was a black hole connected to his limbs and bones at this moment, frantically extracting everything that could be extracted. However, this suction force came quickly and went away quickly. After absorbing 1% of Leon's physical strength, the suction force automatically disappeared. Instead, a pulling force enveloped Leon. Chapter 55, A Known Gift. Leon had a premonition and only had time to open his eyes and wave to Tony. The next second, he disappeared out of thin air. When he disappeared, there wasn't even any fluctuation in the space he was in. No wormhole appeared to suck him away. There was no gate in heaven open to guide his path. He was like a picture in a drawing software. After being selected and the cut button was clicked, he disappeared from the screen in an instant. Not a trace was left behind. "Thank you for the generous gift," Tony exclaimed. "This is unscientific." All the instruments on the scene did not move at all, as if this place had not changed from beginning to end. In Tony's eyes, Leon's disappearance was like a drop of seawater evaporating from the ocean without causing any ripples. Tony frantically ran to Leon's previous position and looked up and down. He felt that his worldview was challenged again. How is it possible to travel through the world so quietly? This is not scientific at all. But what made him even more uncomfortable was actually something else. "Leon, kid, you have to come back soon." As soon as Leon left, Tony felt extremely uncomfortable. Leon felt as if he had entered a void. He was pushed by a force moving in this nothingness. I couldn't open my eyes or speak, and I felt like an ant that had accidentally fallen into a river and was drifting with the current. But this description is not quite correct. He didn't actually feel restrained, he just couldn't move, and then he kept moving forward. It's more like a vegetative person lying in an ambulance and being taken to the hospital. But this feeling didn't last long. At one point Leon felt like he was passing through a thin membrane like the surface of water. He could even feel the ripples in the film caused by him. Then the world started spinning. Feeling something solid under his feet, Leon regained control of his body. He opened his eyes, and the power of the armor, which had been turned off at some point, restarted at the same time, and the eyes on the visor glowed faintly. Is this a world at war? The first image that caught my eye was a raging fire climbing up the tall buildings. There were flames on all the surrounding buildings, and the stars gathered together to burn the entire night sky red. Broken glass, collapsed road signs, and cars with their front ends sunk in and doors torn apart after a collision. There was also a helicopter with a searchlight hovering above the building. This is probably a city at war. Perhaps this place had just been bombarded. The empty cars jammed in the middle of the road showed the panic of people fleeing. Jarvis came online at this time. "Master Leon, are you okay?" It seems that when we were in the garage, for unknown reasons, the circuit systems of the armor stopped working. "I'm fine. We've arrived in another world now, Jarvis." Leon looked around and said, "Your operation was terminated because you traveled through time and space. Don't worry about it. Try to connect to the network first. Jarvis's task is to collect information online." Leon stood there, closed his eyes, and revoked all the suppression of his super hearing in his brain. Suddenly, voices from all over the world came pouring in. The sound of wind, fire, screams, countless sounds swirled around him like a kaleidoscope. At this moment, the sound seemed to have a shape, and each timbre represented a picture. He quickly found useful information in these sounds. "Wesker, welcome to HCF. You are now our battlefield commander. Marvin, guard the west gate. Chris, Jill and Brad are in danger now. I have to go back to find them. Tell Ada Wong that we must get the G virus." Countless voices are reduced to the most valuable few. Leon suddenly opened his eyes. So this is the world of the Resident Evil game version, and I'm in Raccoon City. It seems that the ability to travel through time and space can indeed travel to places outside the Marvel Universe. He recalled the plots he had seen in his previous life and made a judgment. The Resident Evil world poses no threat to me. But it's strange, how does the search for the ability to travel through time work? Does this world really meet the requirements? The treatment of severed limbs can be solved with a virus unique to the world. Even if it may turn you into a zombie, it does solve the problem. But will this world help me improve my strength? Leon was confused and found it a bit ridiculous. The so-called T-virus, G-virus, and Bacteria Master will actually reduce the physical fitness of Kryptonians. Wait, strictly speaking, there is another way in this world that can improve my strength. Leon looked up at the night sky that was burned red by the flames, and suddenly realized. There's a yellow sun there, too. I see. Yellow sun can improve my strength. Damn, this is useless. Marvel Earth already has a yellow sun. Am I coming here to experience sunbathing in a different world? Leon realized that the keywords he had determined were not rigorous, so there were some problems with the final result of the time travel. Next time I'll have to change the keywords to improving genetic potential or having ways to become stronger besides sun exposure. Forget it, let's just take it as a chance to gain experience. Jarvis, there's no need to search for information online. Let's go back. Leon was about to leave the biochemical world and go home directly. Suddenly an invisible wave descended, sweeping across his body from top to bottom. Leon was startled, and before he could react, he felt a cool sensation in his brain. It was as if an invisible hand reached down and gave his cerebral cortex a quick beauty SBA. He felt refreshed for a moment, as if his brain had been slightly optimized in some ways. This external fluctuation was completely beneficial to him and harmless, so much so that the Man of Steel did not offer any resistance. What's happening here? Doubts arose in Leon's mind. Although physically he could sense that what had just happened to him was a good thing. But this inexplicable good thing made him wary. Fortunately, the other party did not give the gift for free. While Leon was wondering, he suddenly discovered a strange fluctuation through his ability to travel through the world. He subconsciously activated his ability. Suddenly, an obscure and unspeakable message, through resonance with the teleportation ability, drilled into his mind. Leon touched his forehead. It was as if there was an invisible ghost connected to his brain waves and spoke directly to his brain. Gift, salvation, doomsday, evolution, biology, more, #10. That information is very obscure. Leon mobilized his super brain to think tens of millions of times in 1 second, but could only parse out 6 words. It seems that the party sending the message has no self-awareness, just a tendency or desire that comes from instinct. Shared it with him. This is such a weird setting. Why is it a bit like world consciousness? Leon rubbed his chin. The world consciousness of Resident Evil is asking me for help. This seems to make sense. He first connected to the biochemical world through his ability to travel through worlds, and then crossed over. Then the biochemical world can naturally use this ability as a bridge to send communication information to him. Although the other party seems to have only instinct and no consciousness. It is even hard to say whether it is world consciousness or not. Maybe it is just a collection of human pain consciousness. However, the other party has already given benefits after all. The gift in that message probably refers to the brain SBA just now. Leon felt very comfortable with this style of giving gifts first and then asking for help. He thought about it, although he didn't reach out to take it. But since they were so enthusiastic, they just stuffed the gift into his pocket. It's not impossible to consider helping my little brother from the biochemical world. It just so happens that he also needs to study what benefits he has gained. But before that, I have to think carefully about what kind of help you want me to do. After all, there are only a few ambiguous words. It's really boom. While Leon was thinking, there was a violent explosion on the rooftop of the building above his head. The rumbling sound of an explosion attracted his attention. Chapter 56. Jill Valentine. Leon looked up. Did the helicopter that was hovering just now explode? Amid the spreading flames, the wreckage of the plane spun and crashed into another building. After a series of collisions, the wreckage was stuck in the floor and caught fire, and a large amount of glass and building material fragments fell down. Leon felt that the scene had an inexplicable sense of déjà vu. Speaking of which, the Resident Evil is also jokingly called the vehicle crisis. Almost all running vehicles that have appeared in the game have been destroyed. So it didn't seem strange that the plane exploded. Maybe it exploded because there were too many muscular men sitting inside and it couldn't bear the weight. Leon made some malicious guesses in his mind. Suddenly his ears moved and more sounds came from the tall building. That sound is a car. There's a car on the roof. He looked up in surprise again. On the roof of a 7-story building, a car rushed through the guardrail and fell straight down with a tall body covered in black on top. Boom! The car hit the ground hard with the big black guy on top, making a heavy, heart-wrenching sound. As the car fell behind, its center of gravity was unstable and the entire body flipped over, with the roof facing down, and fell to the ground again. At this time, the big black guy who was pushed up was exposed, and his huge body lay on the ground without any movement for a while. There was a girl in the car screaming. She screamed in pain when the car landed. She was repeatedly thrown against the roof and door of the car by various actions and reactions, and she screamed several times in succession. Leon felt so distressed for her when he heard this. But what interested him more was that the girl's body seemed a little too strong, falling from the roof of a 7-story building. After a brief dizziness, she actually began to groan and climb out of the car window. Of course, what's even more outrageous is the big black guy. The big black guy was hit by a car and fell to the ground from the 7th floor. After just a few seconds, he slowly got up and walked towards the car again. An invincible beauty like a shameless big black guy who continues to chase beautiful women even after being hit by a car and bombarded by artillery. Isn't this a combination of Jill Valentine in the game and the tracker model Tyrant deployed by Umbrella, the mastermind behind the scenes? The so-called Tyrant is a biological weapon created by Umbrella Corporation by fusing the T-virus with adapted clones. Leon still remembered that the Tyrant in front of him was also called the Goddess of Vengeance. As for Jill, she is a member of a special elite police team called Stars. She is one of the first police officers in the Resident Evil world to experience a biological leak. He is also one of the main characters in this world. He has a strong sense of justice and a strong character. She has neat shoulder-length hair, and her classic image is wearing a blue vest on the upper body. She is known as a woman so beautiful that she can be compared to water. Good, now I know where and when I am. The scene in front of me is exactly the scene in the game. It is now September 1998, around 28 p.m. near the Redstone Station in Raccoon City. Leon analyzed the time node at this moment based on his memory of the game. Master Leon, you are right. It is 21:14 now, and you are less than 1,000 meters away from Redstone Station. Jarvis suddenly spoke. I knew it. Leon raised his eyebrows and flicked open his visor. It seems you're already connected to the network. Yes, but you have already asked me to stop collecting information on the internet. So I don't know much about this world at the moment. Forget the previous instruction. Continue to collect information focusing on the movements of Umbrella Corporation, Eagle Military, and HCF Organization. Okay, Master. Leon said nothing more, sniffed the thick smell of gunpowder in the air, and noticed that Jill had climbed out of the car window. However, Jill happened to see him at this time. The two looked at each other for a second, and Jill's face showed visibly anxious. Are you human? Leon was dressed in steel armor, which was really ahead of its time in 1998. But as soon as Jill asked the question, he already had the answer in his mind. She waved desperately at Leon. Run! Run! Don't just stand there. Go to a safe place. It's dangerous here. She yelled so loudly that she didn't notice the car behind her was on fire. The car was about to explode, and the Tyrant was almost behind her. If she doesn't move soon, then she would first be engulfed by the explosion, and then be killed by the Tyrant. However, in this case, the choice she made subconsciously was to first remind the passerby in strange clothes who she had just seen to leave quickly. Sigh tilde boom. Sure enough, the car exploded. The flames from the explosion spread and were about to engulf Jill. Jill discovered this, too. She turned around and wanted to escape, but it was too late. She could only watch the flames spewing towards her face. She was still lying on the ground at this time, her cheeks clearly feeling the scorching heat of the flames, and she couldn't help revealing a look of despair. In a trance, the scene seemed to appear before her eyes 2 months ago, when she and her teammates encountered zombies in a mansion in the suburbs of Raccoon City. Perhaps from the day she encountered these monsters, she was destined to die at their hands. Only Jill hadn't had time to finish his last words. Suddenly, my eyes blurred. The scene in front of my eyes instantly retreated more than 10 meters. The flames that should have consumed her bloomed in the distance, but instead blew up the Tyrant. She blinked twice blankly, breathed a sigh of relief, and then suddenly widened her eyes. What just happened? She glanced to the side and saw the man in the strange iron shell standing beside her, grabbing her arm. Judging from the touch from the arm, the other person seemed to be wearing some very heavy armor. But isn't the texture of this armor a little too good? The shiny blue-red shell and streamlined shape seem more pleasing to the eye than a space rocket. And the round light on the chest makes it look like a super-modern mecha warrior from a science fiction movie. But how is this possible? Something like super time and space. Jill suddenly remembered that he had suddenly flashed back more than 10 meters, and his face suddenly changed. Who are you? She looked up at the head of the armor. The man's visor was closed at some point, leaving only 2 faint blue lights. Well, now it looks more like a mecha from a science fiction movie. I'll explain it later. A male voice came from under the armor. Jill heard the voice and suddenly remembered. What she saw under the mask before was a male face with handsome features. Excuse me, who are you? She wanted to ask something else. Suddenly, a loud noise came from the sea of fire dozens of meters away. A sound of breaking through the air came from behind. The mecha warrior beside her suddenly took a step forward. A thud. He caught the half-piece of car wreckage that was thrown over. The sea of fire in the distance was split into 2 at this time. The Tyrant, covered in black, walked out of the flames, his whole body burning with flames. Wow, look at this guy. There is definitely no warmer man in the world than him. The mecha warrior teased. Jill was stunned, looking at the Tyrant in the distance with flames all over his body, and subconsciously thought that he was indeed quite warm. But she quickly realized that this was the Tyrant Beau. What a warm man. The corners of her mouth twitched, and she supported herself on the ground and stood up, shoulder to shoulder with the mecha warrior. What should we do now? Can you beat that? She started with a stream of swear words. Chapter 57 Tracker Tyrant. However, before the mecha warrior could answer, an angry roar came from the other side of the street. Hey, asshole, look over here. Jill turned her head and saw a rocket flying towards the Tyrant. There are actually people who have weapons of mass destruction. She felt that she was now safe. The rocket hit the defenseless black man directly and exploded instantly on him. The Tyrant's body was stiff in the firelight, and he looked seriously injured. However, a second rocket was immediately fired from the other end of the street, causing secondary damage to the Tyrant. Most of the block was illuminated by the flames of the explosion. Even a Tyrant who is 2.6 meters tall and invulnerable to swords and guns. Under the attack of 2 consecutive rockets, he bent his knees and fell to the ground. Are you okay? Seeing this, the man who launched the rocket dropped the launcher and ran towards the 2 men. He was wearing the green uniform of Umbrella's UX unit. and his fluffy black curly hair swayed with his movements. He looks fierce and has the tough temperament of a professional soldier. I finally made it. My name is Carlos, and I'm here to save you. He ran over to the two men. That monster should be dead. Come with me. I'll take you to the subway station. Our Umbrella emergency team has built a shelter there and is preparing to send the survivors of the city away. Umbrella. Jill, who had just breathed a sigh of relief, suddenly became excited when he heard this. Are you kidding me? You are the reason Raccoon City is what it is now. Will you protect civilians? She was indignant. The cause of the outbreak of the Raccoon City Resident Evil was the virus leak from Umbrella's underground laboratory. It was a strain called the T-virus. After the infection, it strengthens the patient's bones and muscles. However, it can also cause the patient's skull to become brittle, the body to erode, and develop a crazy desire to eat flesh and blood and spread the virus. After the virus leaked, Umbrella simply gave up the city and even used it as a testing ground. The reason why the city fell was not only due to Umbrella's instigation, but also due to official connivance. Originally, after the Eagle officials discovered the abnormality, they planned to send troops for support. But there was a guy named Simmons in the military committee who proposed to sit back and wait and make the research results of the virus public. So the military forces finally surrounded the city without attacking. They only restricted the entry and exit of people in Raccoon City, but did not send people into the city to clean up the zombies. Carlos was unaware of these things. Faced with Jill's questioning, he was completely confused. What are you talking about? Carlo thought Jill was making a fuss. He took a few steps back. Well, you don't have to believe me, but the only way to leave the city right now is to take the subway. It's up to you whether you want to follow me. And this guy, what's this on you? Only then did Carlos notice that the second person next to him was wearing a handsome suit of steel armor. He looked like an unlucky mecha warrior actor who had just finished filming the sci-fi movie and encountered a disaster just as he walked off the set. Jill also turned his head and looked over. Yes, Mech Warrior, I also want to ask you. Before she could finish her question, she was interrupted again. Boom! Exclamation boom. The dull sound of a hammer hitting the ground sounded in the distance without warning. Don't worry about me. I'm not taking the same path as you. The mecha warrior took a step forward. The two looked in the direction he was looking. The tyrant who had fallen to the ground in the distance regained his mobility at some point. The fire on the other person's body had long been extinguished, and he was now slowly standing up with his hands on the ground. The dull knocking sound was made by the other person supporting himself with his hands on the ground. Hey, this must be fake. It can still move after being hit by 2 rockets. What kind of monster is this? Carlos muttered to himself. You've never seen anything like it? Jill asked. I just know it's looking for something. It has a very clear purpose, and it won't stop until it achieves its goal. Carlos said, You two, we should go now. This guy is totally unkillable. The mecha warrior suddenly laughed and said, According to what you said, does it count as a very loyal man? Ah, loyal. The two were stunned by the sudden joke. The mecha warrior ignored them and took off the travel bag on his back and threw it aside. Then, he actually flew up. Exclamation, thank you for the generous gift. Jill and the other man were stunned. This lump of iron actually spewed out flames from its back and feet and flew up. I thought the mecha warriors were just dressed in a more sci-fi style. Who would have thought that he really had science fiction abilities? When Jill thought about his previous flash again, he was even more shocked. The two men were so horrified that they kept swallowing their saliva, but they did not forget to run to the bunker and then stick their heads out to observe the battle between the mecha and the biological weapons. I feel like I've traveled into a movie. Jill's eyes widened. I saw the mecha warrior flying in the air, stretching out his hands towards the tyrant. As the high-tech sound of energy gathering rang out, he actually shot out energy lasers from his palms. 2 lasers fell on the tyrant like thunder. Just one encounter and he easily pierced through his chest. The tyrant's slow steps suddenly stopped, flames soon burned on his body again, and his huge body collapsed with a loud bang. Is this solved? It should be impossible to stand up again. Jill was indescribably shocked. But she had just finished speaking. The tyrant with 2 holes in his chest suddenly began to break apart piece by piece. Its jet-black bulletproof coat can remain intact even under rocket attacks. But in just a few breaths, the outer coat was completely shattered. Its body tore apart and expanded at the same time, like a soap bubble that could self-replicate. In a matter of seconds, the 2-meter, 6-meter tall tyrant grew 3 times its size. It became like a canine, with its hands and feet transformed into sharp claws, and bone spurs like fish fins protruding from its limbs and back. It lay on the ground, breathing heavily. The rumbling, wheezing sound was like an old steam engine burning coal. The tyrant is really ugly in this form. The mecha warrior commented, the viruses and parasites in his body are completely out of control, and he is on the verge of destruction. The tracker tyrant is able to maintain his sanity thanks to a strange parasite that lives within his body. Its current appearance is the result of the parasite getting out of control and its limbs regenerating and multiplying crazily. Although his strength was greatly increased, his sanity also disappeared. Stop transforming and end it soon. If you're the only one transforming, it'll make me look stupid. The mecha warrior put down his hands, but the next second, small missile heads popped out from his shoulders, arms, waist, and other positions emission. Full fire. Dozens of flames were ignited, and small missiles drew arcs towards the second form of the tyrant. The tyrant sensed danger, and with his powerful legs he pushed off the ground, leaping onto the wall like a praying mantis and holding on tightly. It attempts to use its high maneuverability to avoid danger. But the missiles fired from the mecha warriors have their own tracking effect. One after another, small missiles turned in the air and chased after the tyrant. It was the first time that Jill saw the tyrant running away in panic, and even then he failed to escape successfully. Boom! First, the first missile hit the tyrant. Next came all the remaining small missiles. Explosions followed one after another, although the sound is not louder than that of a rocket explosion. But each small missile seemed to hit the tyrant's vital points, causing severe damage to its body, causing it to stagger and roar. When the last small missile exploded, the tyrant's body was reduced to charred bones, leaning lifelessly against the wall without any movement. This time he should be really dead. Jill looked at the dead tyrant, then at the mecha warrior in the air, with amazement in his eyes. This is like a mobile arsenal. It's so cool. When Jill was training in the army, his most outstanding skill was in blasting. At this moment, she just felt that the mecha warrior in the air was so handsome and was simply shining. Chapter 58 Interpretation of Help Message. Leon floated in the air, looking at the tyrant who was left with only his skeleton on the ground. He also felt that the other party should be completely dead this time. The vitality is indeed very strong. Haha, T-virus, is it another direction of life evolution? He turned and began to think about the help that the world consciousness was asking of him. The world of Resident Evil takes a completely different path from him when it comes to supernatural powers. Kryptonians have all their power within themselves. All their power comes from their own cells and blood and, of course, the yellow sunlight. Resident Evil uses biochemical power to amplify itself. Follow the game plot. Basically, they can be divided into 3 categories: viruses, parasites, and fungi. Each of the 3 categories has its own origin. Among them, the most prosperous is virus technology. Its origin is very interesting. In ancient times, a flower called the Stairway to the Sun was born in Africa, giving rise to a brilliant civilization in the local area. But later this civilization was lost in history. By the 1960s, the 3 founders of Umbrella are Spencer, Marcus, and Edward. This plant is found again in Africa. They extracted a strain called ancestor virus from the sunstars flower. More than 10 years later, Marcus successfully combined the progenitor virus with leeches and developed the T virus. During this period, Edward's son Alexander set up a base in Antarctica, used his ancestors' genes to cultivate 2 offspring, and developed the T Veronica virus there. Marcus' student and Spencer's spy, William Birkin, developed a T virus variant called the G virus in an underground laboratory in Raccoon City. These 3 viruses are the main strains in the early stages of the Resident Evil game world. Others include T Fear virus, T Abyss virus, C virus. They have not been developed yet. Apart from viruses, the rest are parasites and fungi. There are far fewer branches between these 2 evolutionary pathways. In terms of parasites, the main one is a parasite called placa. It appeared underground in the Lania Valley Mountains of Spain hundreds of years ago and is an ancient parasite. Unlike viruses, it strengthens the host while allowing the host to retain some sanity. So later many forces used the placa parasite to control biological weapons. As for the fungus, it is a black mold that originated from the underground of a village in Eastern Europe. This mold first appeared hundreds of years ago. It is capable of storing the genes, consciousness, and memories of multiple organisms. Even when many molds gathered together, a large baby-shaped mold called Mold Master was born. This big mold can link all the memories and consciousness stored in the mycelium, like a network repeater. Some of the small molds it produces are named E-mold or gift. Humans infected with E-mold will not only greatly improve their physical fitness, but also retain relatively complete rationality. However, their consciousness is connected to the master of the fungus and will be restricted and dominated by higher-level infected people. Ethan, the protagonist of the 7th and 8th generations of the game, and his daughter Rose, are the kind of people who perfectly integrate E-mold. However, Rose would have been born at least 20 years later, which is too far away from now. Leon sorted out the general situation of the Resident Evil world in his mind. I began to have some idea of how to ask the world for help. Gift, salvation, doomsday, evolution, biology, more, #10 gift naturally refers to the invisible enhancement he has obtained. Salvation, doomsday should be the literal meaning. The Resident Evil world has experienced several world-destroying crises, but they were all successfully overcome in the original work. The biggest crisis was probably the chaos in the 6th generation of the game, which carried the C virus and could infect the entire world. The creature named Chaos is of average strength, but the virus it carries can infect the entire ocean and then the whole world in a short period of time. Of course, that has nothing to do with Leon. After all, it is very simple for him to solve these crises now. He just needs to kill those troublemakers in advance. But Leon was a little confused about this. If the so-called doomsday refers to various biochemical crises, then it is not the world consciousness that should seek help from him. After all, even if all humans and other creatures died, the Earth would still be able to continue to revolve around the sun peacefully. However, it seems that we cannot draw a final conclusion on this matter immediately. What if the biohazard world is like parts of the Marvel world? There are rules similar to spider web events. That is, once certain important people die or do not die, the world will have a chain reaction and be destroyed. Then he can understand the motivation of the world consciousness to ask for help. After all, according to this theory, if humans perish, the world will also be destroyed. However, Leon felt that the real reason shouldn't be so weird. He put his doubts aside for the time being and continued his analysis. The remaining entries. Evolution, biology is not difficult to understand, probably to let him help promote global biological evolution. This fits the theme of Resident Evil very well. He had sighed about this before when he was playing games. It is said that all kinds of strange and bizarre things can be brewed in Resident Evil. It's both a virus and a fungus. There is simply no way for people to survive. But now that the game has become real, the world may also have instinctive consciousness. Everything has another explanation. In order to promote biological evolution, the world has proactively produced these dangerous but highly potential species. Various viruses, fungi, and parasites can merge and mutate with each other, which is very consistent with the goal of evolution. Perhaps the two words evolution, biology are what the world mainly wants him to help with. As for the last more, Leon couldn't quite understand it. He closed his eyes and tried to feel the emotions shared by the world consciousness slowly. He found out about this part. They all carry a mixture of encouragement, anticipation, and impatience. He thought about it. I think this is probably the world consciousness telling him that once he completes his request for help, he will be given more feedback. Well, nowadays even the world consciousness knows how to make empty promises. Leon tapped the metal visor with his fingers. But since there will be follow-up feedback, I have to be more serious about it. Although I still don't know what the gift I got before was. But the super brain had a vague intuition that the gift would be of great use to him. First, as the first step to saving the world, let's practice by resolving the crisis in Raccoon City. He stopped the armor's propulsion system and fell to the ground. In the original work, there is a T-virus serum in the hospital. I can use that serum to try to reverse engineer a more widely applicable antidote. There is also Umbrella's underground laboratory. The G-virus there cannot be let go. It is needed to promote biological evolution. Leon was thinking. His armor was knocked gently. Hello? Jill walked to his left side, staring at the arc reactor on the chest of the armor. It's amazing that you can hide so many weapons in such a compact armor. I haven't introduced myself yet. I'm Jill Valentine, a member of STARS. May I ask who you are? Are you a classified combatant from the military? Carlos followed him and said, Wow, man. You looked so handsome just now. Even after the black guy turned into a dog, you killed him instantly. Chapter 59, Stage 3 Tyrant. Leon Stark. Leon nodded to the two and introduced himself. You'd better leave here quickly. The zombies will come here if they hear any noise. You're not going to the subway station with me. Ah, I see. Brother Stark, you are the one sent by the higher-ups to solve the problem, right? Carlos couldn't help but touch the armor. I didn't know the technology of this country was so advanced. Those people hid it really well. Jill seemed to think so. She looked at Leon with much kinder eyes, as if she saw her comrade in arms. She held out her hand. I was in the Delta Force. Which unit are you from, Leon? Leon shook her hand with his armor-wrapped arm. You misunderstood, he said. I am not from your country, nor am I from your world. The world. Are you saying that we are not in the same class as you? Jill frowned slightly. Literally, I'm from another world. Leon loosened his hand and said, I'm not here to clean up Umbrella's mess. It was the consciousness of your world that hired me. It lets me help save the world. So you should leave quickly and try to gather as many civilians as possible. I may also send you some T-virus vaccines later. After saying that, he turned around, found the direction of Raccoon City Hospital, and prepared to fly over. Carlos laughed and shouted from behind, Hey, Brother Leon, are you kidding me? How is it possible that there is another world? Do you have any evidence? This handsome guy with ramen noodles hair has some funny attributes. But I am no longer at the age where I would believe in passionate stories about saviors from another world. He felt that the mecha warrior in front of him might have PTSD from the war and was mentally ill. The person hired by the world consciousness means the savior. Jill's eyes also became strange. She thought of the teleportation just now and felt a little shaken, but she quickly denied it. A savior from another world, how is this possible? She thought about it and felt that Leon was probably joking in order to keep it a secret. At this time, Leon flew straight up. However, he did not activate the thrusters on his armor. He hadn't used the armor for a long time and had just been thinking about a lot of things. For a moment, he even forgot to turn on the thrusters and habitually used the bioforce field to fly up. Then the iron shell weighing several tons floated lightly in the air, and Leon's voice came out, as if it had been suffocated by a can. I don't have to prove it, Carlos. You don't need to believe me, and I don't need you to believe me. Just do what you were doing before, and maybe you can save more people. Leon looked around in the air. Also, you should leave now. There are zombies surrounding us. Jill and the other man didn't notice that the iron armor had already opened Newton's coffin lid and was floating there in midair. They looked around and saw groups of zombies limping towards them from street corners. We have to go. Jill's face became serious, but he did not forget to ask Leon. What about you? Where are you going? Maybe we can go and help you later. I'm going to the Raccoon City Hospital and the police station. The underground passage of the police station leads to the Umbrella Laboratory. If you need serum, you can find me there, Leon said. He thinks that plot characters like Jill and Carlos, it should be very important for Party A's boss's world consciousness. So he didn't mind offering some help. Umbrella's laboratory? Jill wanted to ask more. But Leon suddenly raised his hand to stop him. Wait a minute. He moved his ears. There are a lot of things crawling nearby. Well, it sounds like wireworms crawling. Iron wire worm. Isn't that a parasite? Why does it make noise when it crawls? Jill and the other guy had a lot of question marks in their heads. Should we take him with us? He looks mentally distressed and might get into an accident if he's alone, Carlos whispered. Well, but Leon seems to be quite sober. Jill and Carlos thought differently. She thought that Leon was probably speaking in secret code just now. Professional Special Forces personnel all have secret codes. It's just a pity that neither she nor the umbrella guy next to her are Leon's informants. The sound is there. Leon suddenly turned in the air and looked towards the location of the wreckage of the Tyrant. The originally dry bones there have turned into a bulging mass of black substance. Countless black silk threads less than 1 millimeter thick, extending out from the mass of matter, covering the ground, crawling towards the zombies in the distance. This process was silent, just like rain flowing over the city ground naturally and silently. Are there really wireworms? Carlos exclaimed. Wasn't that a secret code? Jill exclaimed. This tyrant is still alive. Leon judged. Huh? Leon raised his eyebrows. Why did Jill and Carlos' words sound so strange? The thought processes of these characters are different from those of normal people. Obviously, the point is that the tyrant is still alive. As a result, one of them was paying attention to the wire worm, while the other was thinking about some messed up secret codes. It's really strange. I'm afraid he has mental problems from fighting too much. Leon remembered that in the game, Jill had just experienced a biological leak 2 months ago. At this point in time, she still has a shadow in her heart and can't sleep all day. So there is indeed something wrong with the mind. Tyrant? Jill and the others woke up from their dream and their faces changed suddenly. It's still alive. Puff! Exclamation puff! Exclamation puff! As the two were surprised, there were sudden sounds of people falling from all directions on the street. When they looked over, they saw the zombies approaching, falling down in large groups. Balls of black silk wrapped them up and then quickly absorbed and digested them. Damn it! It's absorbing other zombies, stop it. Jill quickly pulled out his gun and shot. However, the pistol's firepower was insignificant at this time. Carlos also fired, but it was of no avail. Leon watched this scene in the air, but did not join the two people's attack. He felt a little puzzled. Could the tracker-type tyrant in the game have such strong vitality? Well, he didn't know. After all, he always used the Fingling Ewing plugin when playing games. No matter how strong the boss is, he can be killed with just one shot. Let me see how many stages you can transform into, like Frieza. Leon folded his arms in the air. The tyrant absorbs zombies very quickly. Less than a minute. The mass of dark matter suddenly expanded to 8 meters long and 3 meters high. Its huge body resembles a leech. It occupies most of the street, blocking the path that Jill and the other man had to pass. What the hell is this thing? Jill gritted her teeth. Leon, do you have any other solution? At this point, she could only hope that the mecha warrior with the best style among the three present could perform a miracle, she thought to herself. Leon is so mysterious. Although he would talk nonsense and claim to be the savior of another world. But maybe he really has a way to deal with the horrible creature in front of him. Stand back, let me do it. Leon's voice came from behind, sounding so calm and confident. At this moment, Jill suddenly had an illusion of being extremely at ease. She thought of the generals she met during military training and came up with a word the style of a great general. Could it be that Leon is a senior general in the army? Jill looked back with doubts and saw a scene that she would never forget. Chapter 60. Ruzed to the ground. Jarvis, take off your armor. Jill heard Leon's voice coming from inside the mecha. Yes, master. A second voice seemed to appear in the mecha, and Jill was stunned and thought he was hallucinating. However, after the second voice fell, the mecha's thrusters suddenly burst into flames. Then the iron scales opened one by one, revealing the man hiding inside. Jill's mind went blank when the thrusters started spewing fire. She suddenly realized. Just now, this mecha was floating as if there was no gravity at all. No propulsion was used at all. It's just like a ghost. Jill felt a chill run down her spine and into her head. But this chill was soon replaced by horror. Leon's visor popped open, revealing a face with a high nose, thick eyebrows and deep eyes. His hair was loose, each strand clearly defined. The temperament has the laziness of afternoon sunshine. The first thought that came to Jill's mind was that this man might be a Greek statue that had come to life. It's just that Leon's clothes are very casual. The upper body is a rock gray knitted wool sweater, and the lower body is khaki work shorts. The half of the legs are exposed and they are wearing a pair of brown high heels. Now he looked less like a solemn and muscular statue. It looks more like a student yawning and going out to buy breakfast early in the morning during summer vacation. If that's all, then Jill would still think that the handsome man in front of him, who was so handsome that he could not be looked at directly, was an elite warrior who was a little out of place. But after the mecha was opened, the man named Leon actually flew up. Exclamation! Jill and Carlos opened their mouths in horror and uttered a curse, with expressions as if they had seen God. They watched Leon fly into the air, his lazy temperament turned sharp, and his black pupils danced with scarlet light. The mecha folded up on its own, spewing flames and hovering aside. I originally wanted to get along with you as an ordinary person, but this tyrant has been resurrected again and again. Now that things have come to this, I'm going to show my cards. Actually, the armor is just my seal. Leon clasped his arms, floating in the air, and even the loose knee-length shorts he wore made him look like a master of the world. In front of him, the giant leech that had expanded to more than 10 meters suddenly exploded, shooting out countless thick tentacles. Those tentacles cut through the buildings, covering them as if they could reproduce infinitely and dyeing them their own color. In the center of the tentacle, the original upper body of the tyrant was preserved. But now it has become huge again, standing in the middle of the street like a small building. Now it has no legs, only a pair of nearly 10-meter-long claws, and its head has become like a leech covered with sharp teeth. The tyrant has officially entered the third stage. Having been killed twice, its hatred was all directed at Leon. As soon as its body was fully grown, it stretched out its neck and let out a roar that shook the sky at Leon. A strong wind blew out of its mouth, sweeping across the entire street, and the cars were swaying and shaking. The strong wind blew in his face and Leon frowned. He had no intention of inhaling the tyrant's bad breath. His figure suddenly moved sideways and appeared below the tyrant. Shut up! Leon roared in the air. His figure instantly broke through the sound barrier and punched the tyrant on the head from bottom to top. The punch seemed an understatement, but the tyrant finally regenerated his head. But he couldn't even hold out for a single encounter. In an instant, it shattered into countless pieces like a balloon exploding. Even its body was not spared. Leon wrapped the tyrant with a biological force field, causing its entire body to be subjected to the force at the same time. So, with one punch, whether it is the tyrant's body or the building that is fixed by the tyrant's tentacles, all rose from the ground, shoot back into the sky. A large piece of black biological tissue, along with a group of tall buildings and roads, was thrown into the air at a speed exceeding the speed of sound. Leon chased after him without stopping and threw another punch. Boom! A shocking force exploded in the air. It was as if a meteorite fell from the sky. All the buildings, the tyrant's body, and the zombies were shattered into countless debris in an instant. Jill and Carlos, who were lying on the ground, felt as if they had lost a piece of memory. Because they just blinked. No, they didn't even blink. As a result, all the buildings within a radius of 10 meters broke through the sound barrier and flew into the air. Looking around again, there was only a bare, dry, and barren ground left. Large areas of asphalt and cement on the ground also disappeared, revealing deep underground sewers. At this moment, the two were at a loss. They found that they seemed to no longer recognize the world they once knew. Jill stared blankly at Leon, who had turned into a small dot in the sky. There was no thought in my mind at all, and all my brain capacity was used to feel shocked. Brush. There was no sound, and Leon, who was as far away as a tiny dot, suddenly appeared in front of them the next moment. I'm sorry, the tyrant's body is so strong and powerful and full of biological beauty. I accidentally used a little too much force. The older boy in baggy shorts laughed and waved at the two. Although some damage was done to the city, the residents here have already become zombies anyway, so it doesn't matter. Let's separate here. Goodbye, Jill and Carlos. Remember to collect the civilians. After saying that, Leon flew up again and waved to the armor beside him. Let's go, Jarvis. Let's go to Raccoon City Hospital. Master Leon, do you need me to put on your armor? Why am I still wearing armor? I wore it before because I was worried about encountering kryptonite and the red sun, but there is nothing in this world that can hurt me, so there is no need to wear it. Okay, Master. Let's go. Take the bag Tony gave you and follow me. As soon as Leon finished speaking, he disappeared from the spot. With his current strength, he can accelerate to hundreds of Mach in 1 second. And as long as he wants, the noise caused by high-speed movement under the coverage of the biological force field can even be smaller than the sound of the natural wind blowing in the city. Before Jill and Carlos could process what Leon said, the figure disappeared from their sight. There was only wind blowing from afar, blowing up a thin layer of yellow sand on the ground. He just left like that? Carlos was stunned. Well, it seems so. Jill wasn't much better. He really is the savior, right? He must be. I don't know, maybe. He seemed to just say he was going to the Raccoon City Police Department. It seems to be correct, so what should we do now? Still go to the subway station? Carlos rubbed his cheeks hard. Go. Jill looked away. She looked serious. Leon just told us to rescue civilians. I have to follow him to the subway station and keep an eye on you umbrella people. The scene just now was still replaying in her mind, although she didn't see any details of Leon's actions. But the figure in overalls shorts kept appearing in her mind. In comparison, everything else seems insignificant. As the two were talking, debris from the sky began to fall, like a gray rain. All right, legends, that's it for today. Like, subscribe, and I'll meet you in the next audiobook.